Chapter 540. The problem is with this water bottle. Gohan came out of the sword pavilion and released the 3 Egyptian gods. He looked at the water bottle in the sky and said, "The water from this water bottle must be wearing down the upper limit of the sword pavilion's dimensional barrier. We must destroy this water bottle in order to protect the sword pavilion's dimensional barrier." "You want us to destroy this water bottle?" Bast looked at the water bottle and said very cautiously, "This water bottle has an unusual origin. I can feel a powerful force from it. This force is even greater than the combined power of the 3 of us gods. To be able to wear down Jiendi's dimensional barrier, this water bottle's power is not ordinary. Strange, I know a little about the Greek god system's artifacts, but I have never heard of them having such a thing." Bast touched his mustache. "How will we know if we don't test it?" Gohan also stared at the water bottle and said, "Bast, don't do it yourself. Use your godly power and see if you can move the water bottle down." "I understand." Bast nodded and used his godly power towards the water bottle in the air. After making sure that the godly power held the water bottle firmly, Bast began to use his strength and tried to move the water bottle down. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. Bast's face was a little red, but he didn't move the water bottle at all, not even at the nanometer level. "Damn, why is this water bottle so heavy?" Bast's face was extremely ugly. "What's wrong? What's wrong with this water bottle?" Gohan also asked. "Very heavy, this water bottle is very heavy. It is even heavier than a mountain," Bast replied. "Very heavy? Is it just because it is heavy that it can't be moved?" Gohan asked curiously. "Yes, when I moved this water bottle, I didn't feel any other godly power. This water bottle is simply too heavy." When Bast said this, his face was extremely gloomy. As a divine god, Yuan Ko couldn't even pick up a small water bottle. If this news spread, Bast would lose all his face. Could it be that there's a white dwarf in this bottle? Gohan could not help but recall the house key that I Ching had given him in the sky shrouding formation. It seemed that the weight of the key was calculated according to the weight of a white dwarf star. However, this water bottle also contained a white dwarf star? Was that even possible? Forget it. If it's just the weight, then Batet, Ice Eyes, and Anubis, the 3 of you attack at the same time. I want to see if the weight of this water bottle can withstand the strength of 3 universe realm Yuan Ko. Gohan gritted his teeth and said. The 3 gods looked at each other and released their divine powers at the same time, grabbing the bottle. "It's moving! It's moving!" Under the influence of the divine powers of the 3 gods, the water bottle could no longer maintain its stability. It began to slowly move away from the sky above the sword pavilion. Seeing this, Gohan began to believe that the water bottle was simply difficult to move because of its weight. However, the speed of the water bottle was not fast. It was simply like a snail. If it wanted to leave the sky above the sword pavilion, it would take at least a few hours. By that time, it would be too late. Therefore, Gohan decided to change his way of thinking. Batet, Ice Eyes, Anubis, don't move it yet. Try and see if you can straighten the water bottle so that the water inside doesn't flow out. The water bottle was not directly in contact with the sword pavilion's dimensional barrier. What was actually directly in contact was the water that flowed out of the water bottle. Therefore, Gohan thought that if he stopped the water from flowing out, would he be able to protect the sword pavilion's dimensional barrier? Straighten it? This is even more difficult than moving it. Bast muttered under his breath, but he still obeyed Gohan's order and started to straighten the bottle. As expected, straightening the bottle was much more taxing than moving it. The huge consumption caused the faces of the 3 gods to be covered in sweat, but in the end, the bottle was still straightened bit by bit. In the end, the bottle was straightened. A huge ray of light shot out from the mouth of the bottle. The reason why this ray of light was so substantial was because this ray of light that should have shot straight into the sky actually drew a parabola and landed in front of Gohan, forming something similar to a void gate. Of course, as the mouth of the bottle was straightened, the water inside stopped flowing and no longer flowed out. Seeing that the water had stopped flowing, Gohan immediately contacted Qin Feng, who was in the sword pavilion. After a while, he received confirmation from the other party that the upper limit of the sword pavilion's dimensional barrier had stopped falling. The sword pavilion's safety was under control. This made Gohan finally heave a sigh of relief. But what exactly was this bottle? Why was it so heavy? Why did the water in the bottle have the power to wear down the dimensional barrier? This was a question that Gohan could not answer no matter how much he thought about it. And why did Loki put this thing here? The ability of this water bottle was so magical, and there was not even 1 or 2 high-level Yuan Ko guards around it. It was as if he did not care whether this thing would be stolen or not. But with the weight of this water bottle, it was really impossible for anyone to steal it. Who are you? How dare you touch the beautiful Lord Ganymedes? Do you want to have a taste of the power of lightning? Suddenly, a blond, fair-skinned boy walked out of the light door that shot out from the mouth of the bottle. Gohan was a little dazzled when he first laid eyes on this young man. Gohan hated to use the word beautiful to describe men, because Gohan felt that men should be synonymous with masculinity and responsibility. But after seeing this boy, Gohan had to use the word beautiful to describe him. If it wasn't for the thing between his legs, which was only wrapped in a piece of linen, Gohan would really think that this boy was a beautiful woman. What a beautiful man! Ice Eyes saw that the boy was even more explicit. She clasped her hands in front of her chest and looked at him with red hearts in her eyes. She looked like she could not wait to hug the boy in her arms. Even Batet and Anubis, who were men, could not help but pant when they looked at each other. For them, gender seemed to no longer be important. This boy was so beautiful that the word pretty boy was the most suitable to describe him. Oh no, the word pretty boy had already been ruined by the Korean trash. Pretty boy was no longer enough to describe this boy's beauty. Perhaps only someone who was favored by the gods could reflect it a little. Humph, you naked men still have to bow down to my tortoise in the end. Disgusting. Ganymedes saw the infatuated expressions of the 3 Egyptian gods and proudly stroked his golden curly hair. He was already used to such expressions. Whether it was a man or a woman, when they saw him for the first time, they all had such expressions. It was really annoying. But the human behind them, his expression did not seem to be infatuated at all. He even looked a little disgusting. Seeing Gohan's expression, Ganymedes was very unhappy. He pinched his fingers and pinched a beautiful orchid, then directly ordered, "You 3 help me kill this rude man." "Wait, who are you ordering? Ordering my people?" Gohan was stunned when he heard this. This beautiful little guy was quite interesting. He actually ordered his men to kill him. Then something even more interesting happened. Batet and the other 2 actually turned around and wanted to kill Gohan. "Are you stupid?" Gohan glared at them, and Batet and the other 2 immediately came to their senses. Then, they instantly began to feel afraid. What were they doing just now? They actually wanted to kill Gohan. Just because they looked at him, they were actually controlled by this beautiful boy? What was even more terrifying was that they did not feel like they were being controlled by divine power or skills. It was just a subconscious reaction. In other words, they were simply attracted by this boy's beauty and could not help but want to listen to his words. When Batet and the other 2 thought about this, they were filled with fear. They were not ordinary people. They were the powerful universe-level Yuan Ko. They were gods, but they were attracted by a simple man's beauty. This was a bit too terrifying. Thinking about this, Batet looked at Ganymedes again with extreme vigilance. Seeing Ganymedes again, he was still shocked by his beauty. However, Batet and the other 2 who were already prepared didn't indulge in it this time. Their eyes were filled with vigilance. "Hey, you've woken up from my beauty so quickly?" Ganymedes's voice was clear and sweet like a newborn oriole. "I understand. It seems like you are all universe level Yuan Ko. Then, Ganymedes put on a pitiful expression. 3 hollow wine cups suddenly appeared in his hands. Ganymedes's 3 delicate fingers lightly clamped the 3 wine cups and said with a whimper, "Ganymedes is just a poor boy. Don't hurt Ganymedes, okay? How about Ganymedes pour you a cup of good wine?" Okay. Even though they were already vigilant, Batet and the other 2 still fell for Ganymedes's beauty. They smiled and wanted to take the 3 wine cup. Gohan was speechless. He had no choice but to use a secret method and hit the 3 gods' godheads. Ow 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 ow. The faces of the 3 Egyptian gods suddenly turned the color of pork, and they immediately recovered from the state of obsession. They looked at Ganymedes with a little fear. Boring! Too boring! Seeing that his charm didn't work, Ganymedes could only throw the 3 glasses back into the door. With a wave of his hand, the heavy bottle that was suspended in the air automatically flew behind Ganymedes. Chapter 541. The water bottle floated behind Ganymedes and tilted slightly. 3 streams of water flowed out of the mouth of the bottle at the same time. Like living water snakes, they entangled towards the 3 Egyptian gods. Little beauty, don't resist. Just surrender obediently. I will take good care of you. A perverted smile appeared on Isai's face. She looked like a customer of a brothel. She didn't care about the water snake at all. Isai probably thought that as long as she touched it with her divine power, the water snake would be shattered into pieces in an instant. But as soon as she came into contact with the water snake, she found that it was far from being as simple as she had imagined. A bone-chilling temperature penetrated into Isai's body from the water snake. At this moment, the blood in Isai's body was frozen into ice, and Isai herself was frozen in place. Is this water snake ice attribute? Seeing this scene, Bastet's heart became alert. He did not dare to touch the water snake carelessly like Isai's. A pair of cat-like claws instantly grew on Bastet's 2 palms. As he clawed at the void, the entire space began to shatter. This was Bastet's unique skill, sharp claws that could tear space apart. Bastet's idea was very simple. Even if the water snake could freeze, it could not do anything in the face of the shattering space. Batet wanted to bury the water snake in the shattered space. Bastet's idea was very good, and his strategy was not wrong. But he never expected that the moment the shattered space collided with the water snake, the shattered space would suddenly not shatter. Even the shattered space along the way was quickly repaired by the water snake. This water snake is of the space attribute. This was Bastet's last sentence. After that, Batet, who came into contact with the water snake, fell into the same fate as Isai's. He instantly became an ice sculpture, frozen inside and out. Finally, there was Anubis left. Although Anubis was usually quite stupid, he was not stupid at all when it came to fighting. In terms of real strength, as the god of death, Anubis was the most powerful of the 3 Egyptian gods. Seeing that the water snake had both the space and ice attributes, Anubis decided not to fight it on the physical level. Anubis decided to compete in the illusory realm of good and evil. Anubis took out a very simple scale that seemed to be made of stone. He pulled out a strand of hair from his head and placed it on one end of the scale. Then, he placed the other end of the scale towards the 3rd water snake. The moment the scale came into contact with the water snake, Anubis shouted, "Good people and evil people have their own scales. Reward the good and punish the evil. This is the moment. The good will rise, the evil will fall." This was Anubis' most powerful ability. It could use this good and evil scale to weigh the good and evil of anything. Once the weight of evil exceeded the weight of Anubis' hair, the person would be judged guilty and sent to hell. Even if it was Yuan Ko, who was at the same level as Anubis, after entering hell, it would take him at least 10 minutes to escape. Even though this water snake wasn't a living creature and was only a manifestation of power, with no distinction between good and evil, the scales of good and evil could still trace back to the wielder of this power and judge the sins of the wielder. In other words, at this moment, the scale was weighing the sins of Ganymedes. Anubis watched the changes of the scale nervously. At this moment, the scale was constantly shaking. Sometimes, Anubis' hair was a little heavier, and sometimes the water snake was a little heavier. This was something that Anubis had rarely seen in thousands of years. This meant that the power of the water snake belonged to very little sin, almost as heavy as Anubis' hair. If it was a mortal, it would be easier, but in this world, Yuan Ko, Anubis had never seen a Yuan Ko with so little sin. After more than 10 seconds, the scale finally calmed down. However, at this moment, the end that carried the hair sank slightly. The meaning of this was self-evident. As the holder of the scales of good and evil, if the weight of one's hair was equal to the weight of the other party's sin, then the same punishment would befall one's body. The ground beneath Anubis's feet cracked, and countless skeletal hands reached out from the ground. They grabbed Anubis's ankles and dragged him into hell. As a result, under the attack of the 3 water snakes, Guhan's main fighters, the 3 U-level Yuan Ko, all temporarily lost the ability to fight. This left Guhan alone to face Ganymedes and the terrifying water snakes behind him. Guhan clenched his fists tightly. Facing such a serious situation, Guhan could only fight himself. The power of these water snakes is terrifying. They can even freeze a universe-class Yuan Shen. If I touch these water snakes, I will die for sure. Therefore, I can't let them touch me. Guhan's brain spun rapidly, and a battle plan came to mind. These water snakes are quite slow, so it's not a problem to dodge them. That's right, the least I can do is to dodge these water snakes, get close to this Ganymedes, and kill him. That's the only way. At first glance, this battle plan sounded quite reliable, but this plan was based on the extremely slow movement speed of the water snake. But was the speed of the water snake really that slow? The answer was no. When another water snake flew out of the bottle, Guhan's pupils instantly lost sight of the water snake. The speed of this water snake was actually more than 100 times faster than the speed of the 3 Egyptian gods just now. Guhan did not even have time to react, and the head of the water snake had already rushed in front of him. It's over. There's no other way. Everything is in vain. Guhan helplessly stood in the same place. With this kind of speed, unless he reached the level of a genuine spirit sword-level sword wielder, it was impossible for him to escape. He could only let this water snake freeze him. After 0.001 seconds, Guhan felt the water snake hit the tip of his nose, and then a coldness that could freeze everything quickly spread from the tip of his nose to Guhan's whole body. It could be imagined that the next thing that would be frozen was Guhan's brain, then his neck, upper body, arms, lower body, until his hair was completely frozen. Guhan didn't even have time to react. Guhan was not the U-level Yuan Ko like best. If his whole body was frozen to death, Guhan would be in danger of dying. Therefore, Guhan had already begun to prepare to trigger the Green Onion Stone's ability to return to the city. Although he was very unwilling, Guhan had no other choice but to escape to Chongyang Mountain. Seeing that Guhan was about to give up, suddenly, the coldness that came into contact with Guhan's brain disappeared without a trace. Then, this coldness continued to recede. When Guhan regained consciousness from the rapid freezing, he saw a small figure flying in front of him, blocking the attack of the entire water snake. "You're the 4th poor." When Guhan saw the appearance of this small figure, he couldn't help but exclaim. This little elf, who was taken in as a disciple by Ching Popper and given the name Sea Popper in the past, had actually blocked this terrifying water snake. When Guhan took a closer look, he found that this water snake had actually shot directly into Sea Popper's mouth, and was treated like a popsicle, which was being enjoyed by Sea Popper with pleasure. Also, looking at her intoxicated expression, it seemed that these water snakes were a great tonic for her. Guhan immediately cut off the green onion stone's operation and watched as the fourth pour swallowed the entire water snake into his stomach. Ah! So comfortable! The fourth pour lay on his small chest wearing a blue doodoo and said with a face full of happiness, "Right, this red doodoo was specially made to distinguish the first pour from the eighth pour. The first pour was red, the second pour was yellow, the third pour was green, the fourth pour was blue, the fifth pour was white, the sixth pour was black, the seventh pour was purple, and the eighth pour was gold. How can this be? My water, how can it be like this?" Seeing that his water snake was eaten by the fourth pour, Ganymede's exquisite little face instantly became distorted. Once again, he shot out 3 more water snakes, trying to strangle the fourth pour. However, the more water snakes there were, the happier the fourth pour seemed. She first bit one of the water snakes with her mouth, then used both hands to grab the other 2 water snakes at the same time. Her face was full of satisfaction and happiness. There was a good song that went, "I have a chicken in my left hand, a duck in my right hand, and a big bun in my mouth." That was probably the best portrayal of the fourth pour's mood at that time. I understand now. Is this the fourth pour's ability to absorb the purest elemental energy that Misaka Mikoto mentioned? It seems that the pure elemental energy in water is the best tonic for the fourth pour. Guhan instantly understood the reason for the fourth pour's magical ability. Misaka Mikoto said that the 8 elves who had the foundation of a universe-level Yuan-ko had to absorb the purest spiritual elemental energy in order to grow to the level of a universe-level Yuan-ko. Later on, Guhan also let the 8 elves absorb the elemental energy of other Yuan-ko who could release elemental magic. However, Guhan had tested many Yuan-kos from the rat to the dragon level. The 8 elves had not absorbed any energy at all. Hence, Guhan had put this matter aside. It wasn't until now that it encountered Ganymede's water snakes that the fourth of the 8 paupers jumped out and ate all the water snake. Looks like the fourth pour is the water element of the 8 elements. Guhan thought to himself. At that time, the fourth pour had eaten all 3 water snakes and was looking at Guhan with a longing expression. "Grandmaster, can the fourth pour eat some more? Oh my God! Save me, your majesty!" Seeing that its water snakes had been completely eaten, Ganymede's finally reacted. It jumped into the water bottle and the water bottle began to slowly fly out. It seemed like it was planning to escape. Escaping was the right decision, but wasn't Ganymede's speed of escape a little too slow? It was like a toy remote control car. When the fourth pour saw that its food was about to escape, it did not care about Grandmaster Guhan beside it. In the blink of an eye, it flew into the big water bottle. It seemed like Ganymede's inside the water bottle was going to suffer. Chapter 542. The fourth pauper had been in the water bottle for more than 10 minutes. Guhan looked at the water bottle very worriedly. If the other sisters of the fourth pauper had not patted their non-existent little chests and assured Guhan that the fourth pauper was very safe in the water bottle, Guhan would have definitely smashed the entire water bottle to save the fourth pauper. "I'm so envious of the fourth pauper. I didn't expect her to be the first one to develop." Ibao laid in Guhan's hair and said enviously, Yes, I heard from Master that this is called dog shit luck. Did the fourth pauper secretly eat some dog shit? Why don't we find some and try it too?" The sixth pauper also said enviously. "Shut up. If you 2 dare to eat that thing, I'll drive you out of my hair and let you sleep with Ching Pin." Guhan pinched the heads of the 2 little guys. "No, Grandmaster. You don't know, Master likes to grind his teeth with our heads at night. We sleep with Master like sawing wood." The 7 little guys said loudly at the same time. It seemed that the position of Ching Pin in their hearts was no longer as great as when they were first born. In addition to these 7 chattering little guys, behind Guhan, there were 3 Egyptian gods with their faces covered in dust and their hair stained with ice. They looked at the ground dejectedly, as if they had been ked by a teddy bear. 3 against 1, yet they were defeated. If this matter were to spread, the Egyptian gods would lose all face. Oh, the 4th pauper is finally over. She's coming out. Suddenly, Ebao said such a sentence, and the water bottle that Gohan was staring at began to shake desperately. In the end, it fell to the ground, and a large amount of smoke came out of the mouth of the bottle. The gray smoke covered the entire space. Grandmaster, the 4th pauper is so full. In the smoke, Gohan felt a small body crawling into his hair. The 4th pauper had returned. When the smoke completely dissipated, other than the water bottle, there were 4 other people lying on the ground. Among the 4 of them, other than the beautiful Ganymedes, the other 3 looked like middle school girls. Could these people be Misaka Mikoto's friends? When Gohan saw the appearances of the 3 girls, he instantly guessed their identities. It was not that Gohan had seen these girls before, but they were wearing the same school uniform as Misaka Mikoto. It was obvious that they were from the same school. According to the information that Gohan found, Misaka Mikoto's best friends were from the same school. It was very normal for them to wear the same school uniform. P.S. In fact, Misaka Mikoto and Heizi are from the same school. Chu-chun and Lei-zi are from another school. However, the rumors in the real world are not so accurate. It's not strange for the 4 sisters to be wearing the same school uniform, right? It's not a bug. I feel like my body is being hollowed out. That was the most direct feeling in Ganymede's heart. Before the smoke completely dissipated, he wanted to sneakily get up and escape with his water bottle. However, before he could take a few steps, a hand grabbed his neck. Now you know how to escape. The one who grabbed him was Batet. Among the 3 Egyptian gods, Batet was the one who cared the most about his reputation. Therefore, Batet was undoubtedly the one who hated Ganymedes the most. Great God, Your Majesty, please let the puny Ganymedes go. Ganymedes tried his best to make himself smile like a flower. Your Majesty, I know 99 ways to pour wine and 99 different styles. Why don't you let Ganymedes be your pet? Get lost. I don't have that kind of hobby. Bastet's hair stood on end when he heard Ganymedes' words. This man was too disgusting. Did he not have any sense of shame? I have a few questions. If you answer me honestly, I won't kill you. How about it? Just as Ganymedes was begging Batet with a pitiful cat-like look, Gohan took the initiative to stand up and speak. Hearing that she wouldn't die, Ganymedes immediately smiled like a flower and looked at Gohan. Esteemed sword-bearer, please rest assured. This servant will definitely tell you everything I know without reserve. Well, first of all, tell me who you are, which pantheon you belong to, and what Yuan-ko are you? You must tell me everything in detail. Don't miss a single thing. Gohan said. In order to escape for his life, Ganymedes immediately told everything about himself. Ganymedes was originally the prince of the kingdom of Troy, the future heir to the throne. That's right, it was the city of Troy on the Trojan horse. Of course, that was a long time after Ganymedes ascended to the sky and became a god. Ganymedes' beauty was natural. It was said that when he was born, even the stars in the sky were dim. No one had the guts to peep at Ganymedes' appearance. Later, when this beautiful young man was playing with his friends on the grass, he was seen by the great king of the gods, Zeus. The king of the gods was immediately attracted by my unparalleled beauty. His heart was ignited with the flame of love. He turned into a huge eagle and swooped down to Ganymedes' side. He gently caught the beautiful me. My friends rushed over to stop him, and the hounds howled wildly. But the eagle did not care about the chaos on the ground. The god and I rose higher and higher, disappearing into the blue sky. The above is from Ganymedes' own words. Zeus brought Ganymedes to Mount Olympus. Zeus, who had changed back to his original appearance, couldn't wait to have sex with Ganymedes, who was only a teenager at that time. For 10 days, Ganymedes did not get out of bed. Later, Zeus ordered Ganymedes to become his wine boy. In the process, he also had some grievances with Hercules, the god of strength. Ganymedes learned how to pass the goblet dexterously and gracefully with 3 fingers, and how to hold the goblet steadily with a few fingertips. He shuttled back and forth between the banquets, filling the goblets of the gods or serving a few jugs of freshly brewed wine. During the merry and debauched banquets, the beautiful naked Ganymedes shuttled back and forth. Wherever he went, every god would gently reach out and touch his body, praising his beauty. Of course, during the banquet on Mount Olympus, the gods only dared to drool at the beautiful Ganymedes. No one would have the guts to stretch out a finger and touch the beloved of Zeus. Next, Ganymedes spent a lot of time talking about how Zeus liked him, how much he loved him, and how he became Zeus' only male lover. He was also the only lover of Zeus who was brought to the divine kingdom. When Ganymedes wanted to describe in detail how he and Zeus made love, Gohan finally could not help but stop him. Bast, on the other hand, had a somewhat regretful look on his face. He really wanted to know how Ganymedes and Zeus made love. It was not because Bast liked the topic, but because of the super scandals about the desolate level Yuan Ko and Zeus. When they chatted in the future, he could brag a lot. Unfortunately, Gohan had no interest in these things. He said seriously, "I am not interested in knowing about these things. Let me ask you, who are you, Yuan Ko, and what is the divine artifact in your hand?" "I am the dragon-level Yuan Ko," Ganymedes answered honestly. "Impossible. This is absolutely impossible." Bast was furious. "Are you kidding me? How could you be just a dragon-level Yuan Ko? How could I, the dignified Bast, be frozen into an ice sculpture by a dragon-level Yuan Ko?" It was over. If this matter were to spread, the 3 Egyptian gods would really become a laughing stock. The 3 of them were actually defeated by a dragon-level Yuan Ko. What was the point of living? "I dare not lie to you, sir. I am really just a dragon-level Yuan Ko," Ganymedes said quickly. "I was originally a mortal. Later, I received the divinity of Zeus and reluctantly joined the Greek god. But my aptitude is there. In any case, my limit is the dragon-level Yuan Ko. It is impossible to surpass the boundary of the nether level. I was able to defeat the 3 great gods because of my original body, the water bottle." Ganymedes quickly raised his water bottle. "Because I received the love of Zeus, I was jealous of Queen Hera. She used the water of eternity that she got from the Eastern gods to turn me into a water bottle, so my original body changed from a human to this water bottle." This Aquarius was transformed by Ganymedes, but he actually said that this Aquarius was his original body. This implied that his human body was just a transformation. His origin had been changed by Hera. It seemed that Ganymedes was a very pitiful and unlucky guy. Ganymedes continued to say, "Then, Zeus raised me to the sky and became a constellation. I stayed there for 1,000 years. During these 1,000 years, I was the companion of the stars and other constellations. I absorbed the origin of the void, and with the magical power of the water of eternity, I had the ability to suppress universe level and Yuan Ko. As long as I put the unconscious universe level Yuan Ko or Yuan Ko below Yuan Ko into my water bottle, I can use the power of the water of eternity to suppress their original bodies. At the same time, I can extract the power in their bodies and use it to fight. Loki invited me over from Zeus and told me to suppress these 3 universe-level freedom beings in my body. Then, I can use their power to help him break through Sword Pavilion's defense. I did this once before. Those 3 water snakes were the power of 3 universe-level primordial souls. That's why His Majesty didn't lose to me but to 3 universe-level freedom warriors like you guys. It really wasn't because His Majesty wasn't strong enough. At this point, all the secrets were revealed. It turned out that Ganymedes was Zeus's boy toy, and the reason why Ganymedes was able to fight evenly with the 3 Egyptian gods and even suppress them was because he borrowed the power of the other 3 universe-level freemen. These three universe-level freedom beings were Misaka Mikoto's good friends: Blackie, the space controller; Early Spring, the thermostatic Grim Reaper; and Teardrop, the updraft. Oh right. You said that you became a constellation in the sky. Are you? Gohan suddenly thought of something. That's right. I'm an Aquarius, one of the 12 zodiac signs. I heard that I'm quite famous in the human world. I wonder if that's the case. Ganymede said cutely. Chapter 543. I swear I will never believe in horoscopes or anything like that again, Gohan said firmly to himself. Gohan seemed to be able to see the shadow of his own Scorpio constellation in Ganymede. If the Aquarius constellation was a man, then what was the Scorpio constellation? One more question. Where is Loki? Where is Loki? You are so important and Zeus treasure. Why would Loki leave you here alone? Gohan glared at him coldly and asked sternly. Loki went to find a new Emperor Zurg. Ganymedes shrunk his head and sold all the information about Loki. He said that the energy of the Emperor Zurg in his hand had been exhausted, so he had to find a new Emperor Zurg before he could use the creation divine spark again. Therefore, he brought Hela to find the Emperor Zurg. As for me, because I suppressed 3 universe-level freelancers, I am even stronger than Loki. Loki probably thinks that no one can defeat me, so he left me here to wear down the Sword Pavilion's dimensional barrier. What? You're saying that Loki's Emperor Zurg has run out of energy? Gohan was pleasantly surprised when he heard Ganymede's words. This was the best news that Gohan had heard today. Loki's Emperor Zurg could no longer be used. Without Loki's Emperor Zurg, what was there for Gohan to be afraid of? He could kill Loki with the 3 Egyptian gods. Let's go and find Loki. Let's go now. Gohan was in a hurry to find Loki. Wait, Lord Gohan, how should we deal with this guy? Bast grabbed Ganymede's neck and asked Gohan. Lord, have mercy, Lord. You promised the beautiful me that as long as I tell you the truth, you won't kill me. Ganymedes knew that the time to decide his fate had come. He looked at Gohan with his beautiful face. Even a rock would be moved by such a beautiful scene. Is there a way to strip him of his power, or destroy this bottle of water so that he can no longer use his power to threaten humans? Gohan asked Bast. He believed that if Bast's answer was that there was no way, then Gohan would not hesitate to order Bast to kill Ganymede. He would not care about the promise he made before. Ganymedes immediately turned his pleading gaze towards Bast. His life was now in Bast's hands. There is a saying, as long as we control his godhood, he will be like us. Bast thought for a while and said. Gohan nodded. Indeed, if even universe-level Yuan Ko was controlled by the godhood, then dragon-level Yuan Ko would be no exception. And it just so happened that Gohan had the method of controlling godhood from I Ching, so he could use it on Ganymede. So Gohan pressed his hand on the top of Ganymede's head and tried to extract the godhood from Ganymede's body according to the secret method that I Ching gave him. However, something strange happened. Gohan's power walked around Ganymede's body, but he did not even find a trace of the godhood. You don't have a godhood in your body. Gohan let go of his hand and asked Ganymedes with an unfriendly expression. I have it. I have a godhood. My divinity was given to me by His Majesty Zeus himself. I have divinity. Ganymedes panicked. He closed his eyes and began to look for his godhood in his body. However, just like Gohan, he did not even see a trace of it. Slap! Just as Ganymedes was desperately looking for the godhood in his body, more than a dozen sword energies suddenly spewed out of Gohan's palm. In an instant, Ganymedes, who had become thin and tender, was killed by Gohan. The desolate level Yuan Ko, the king of the Greek pantheon, Zeus's most beloved boy toy and wine boy, died in the hands of Gohan. Even at the moment of his death, he did not realize that Gohan would suddenly kill him. The dimensional vortex in the sky began to slowly appear, which meant that the unlucky child was really dead. Seeing Ganymedes being killed so suddenly, even Bast and the other two couldn't react. They didn't expect that Guhan would kill Ganymedes without a sound. Boss Guhan, why did you kill him? Didn't you promise him that as long as he told the truth, you would let him go? Bast's expression was a little angry. He was not angry because of Ganymedes' death, but because he thought of their situation. After all, Guhan had promised Ganymedes that he would not die if he told the truth. However, now that Guhan had broken his promise, didn't this mean that in the future, when Bast and the others reached their agreement, Guhan would also break his promise? Bast could not help but feel angry about this. This was related to their future destiny. What if Guhan killed him like he did to Ganymedes? Thinking of this, Bast felt a chill run down his spine. Are you afraid that I won't keep my promise? Guhan saw through Bastet's thoughts at a glance. Don't worry, you guys are different from Ganymedes. It was because of him that 30 million people in Buenos Aires died 300 years ago. This blood feud can't be washed clean even after 3,000 years, let alone 300 years. That's why Ganymedes must die. We also have human lives in our hands. After listening to Guhan's words, Bast's expression did not ease. Instead, it became more unsightly. We may not have 30 million human lives in our hands, but we have at least 30,000. Don't tell me that Master Guhan does not intend to avenge these people? Yes, 30,000 people. Guhan's body stiffened and he let out a long sigh. But when you followed I Ching, I'm afraid the lives you saved were already more than 3,000. This time, if you can help Yuzhang City survive this disaster, it will be equivalent to the lives of 40 million people. 30,000 people for 40 million, even if you use your Anubis scale to weigh it, it will still be heavier than your past sins. How can I not understand these things? That's true. Bast's expression finally improved a little, but he still had some doubts. What if Yuzhang City is gone? If it's gone, then it's gone. You've all done your best. I know that. Guhan smiled bitterly and nodded. You can rest assured. Even if you don't save Yuzhang City, you are still I Ching's people. Even if it's for I Ching's sake, I will never violate my oath. Even if you don't believe me, don't you believe I Ching? Bast's expression changed a few times, but he finally relaxed and bowed to Guhan. Sorry, Master Guhan. We were overthinking. Although Ganymedes was dead and his corpse had been sucked back by the dimensional vortex, the strange thing was that his main body, the water bottle, had not been sucked away by the dimensional vortex. Instead, it had been left on the ground. This was very strange. Since this water bottle was Ganymedes' main body, it was one with Ganymedes. When the dimensional vortex appeared, it should have been sucked back by the dimensional vortex. Even the desolate grade Yuan Ko was no exception. But now, this water bottle was still lying on the ground. Could it be that Ganymedes was not dead? This caused Guhan's heart to be filled with vigilance. Being cautious, he decided that in for a penny, in for a pound, in for a pound. He might as well smash this water bottle. Just as Guhan was about to order Bast and the other two to attack, Popper 4 suddenly jumped out of Guhan's hair and stood on the water bottle. It protected the water bottle like an old hen and said in a childish voice, "This water bottle belongs to Popper 4. Seeing Popper 4 protecting its food, Guhan could not help but smile. So what if it belongs to Popper 4? You can't take it away. How about this? Put it in my dimensional pocket and I'll carry it for you? There's no need. Popper 4 can carry it himself." With that said, Popper 4's body quickly melted like ice and wrapped around the entire water bottle. After wrapping around it, the water bottle actually melted and turned into a water ball. It kept shrinking and finally became the size of a cell phone. With a ripple, the water ball returned to Popper 4's appearance. I can't take it anymore. Popper 4 is exhausted. Popper 4 is going to sleep. Popper 4 jumped into Guhan's palm and jumped a few times. She yawned and curled up her body. Suddenly, she turned into a blue gem-like transparent pearl. Pauper 4, what's wrong with you? Upon seeing this scene, Gohan turned pale with fright. He thought that Pauper 4 had a problem because she had swallowed the water bottle. As a result, the first poor person jumped out in envy and jealousy and explained, "Don't worry about her. She's so lucky that she's actually starting to develop abnormally. When the fourth poor person wakes up, she'll become the big sister. It's so annoying. I'm clearly the big sister that Master has acknowledged, but why did this guy take a step ahead of me?" After some communication, Gohan finally understood. It turned out that Pauper 4's absorption this time had completely satisfied the elemental modeling requirements in her body. When Pauper 4 wakes up, it would probably be like what Misaka Mikoto had said, transforming into the final form of the universe-level Yuan Ko. It was really a step to the heavens. No wonder Pauper 4 was so envious and jealous. Gohan also felt that it was very magical. Just by absorbing the water elemental energy from the dragon-level Yuan Ko, Pauper 4 completed the transformation from the mouse-level Yuan Ko to the universe-level Yuan Ko. This Ganymedes was really a great supplement. After that, Gohan asked Bast to check on the physical condition of Misaka Mikoto's 3 best friends. Bast said that the energy in their bodies had been suppressed too much. That was why they were unconscious. They would naturally wake up when the energy in their bodies had recovered. As for when they would recover their energy, only God knew. Feeling helpless, Gohan could only put the 3 of them into his dimensional pocket. Everything would have to wait until he defeated Loki and found Misaka Mikoto. Chapter 544. I say, Lord Gohan, aren't you a little too early to kill this Ganymedes? Bast pursed his lips when he heard that Gohan was going to look for Loki. Can't you ask for Loki's location before you kill Ganymedes? How would we know where Loki is looking for King Zergs? No need. Ganymedes told me that there is only one place in Yuzhong City that has King Zergs. If Loki is looking for King Zergs, he must be there, Gohan said with a serious expression. What place? Bast asked subconsciously. Why, you don't know. Gohan looked at Bast in surprise. When Yuzhong City was first established, weren't you all by I Ching's side? How could you not know about this? When Yuzhong City was halfway built, we were tricked by I Ching into the Chongyang Mountain Array. We only know half of the core area, and we have never participated in the other half. How would we know where the King Zergs are hiding in Yuzhong City? Bast's face was full of unhappiness when he said this. This was normal. No one would be happy when they encountered such a thing. Forget it. The King Zergs are not anywhere else. They are here. As Gohan spoke, he stomped the ground under his feet. Under the soil of Yuzhong City, follow me. Then, under Gohan's lead, Bast and the other 2 opened the way. The 4 of them moved as fast as lightning. Within a few minutes, they arrived near a crossroad. This was just a very ordinary crossroad in the core area. It was a small 2-lane road that was not even comparable to the crossroads of some small counties. However, at such a crossroad, there was a hole more than 10 meters in diameter. The hole was unfathomable, and no one knew how deep it was. Seeing this hole, Bast had an ominous feeling in his heart, as if something very dangerous was hidden inside. Sure enough, this hole was dug by Loki by force. It seems that Loki has found the location of the King Zergs. Gohan sighed. Didn't you ask where this place is? Then let me tell you, this is actually the true core of Yuzhong City. This hole leads directly to the core of Yuzhong City's super-dimensional wall protection system. Do you understand? You mean, this is the core system of the dimensional wall that protects the entire Yuzhong City? Bast frowned. But why did Loki go to the core system of the dimensional wall? He has already entered the core area of Yuzhong City. The dimensional barrier is no longer of any use to him. Why would he destroy the core of the dimensional barrier now? If he has the time, he might as well kill all the humans. Do you think Loki's goal is to destroy Yuzhong City's super-dimensional barrier? Gohan scoffed. Didn't I tell you? Loki's goal is another Imperial Zerg that can activate his creation godhood. You're saying that the Imperial Zergs are in the core of the dimensional wall. Bast smacked his head. Why did he only realize it now? Do you know why there have only been 8 base cities for the past 1,000 years? The 8 base cities are overcrowded. It's difficult to squeeze out a place to build more buildings. The only way is to increase the height of the buildings. Under such circumstances, isn't it the best choice to build a new base city? Gohan asked calmly as he looked at the cave. That's right. Why? Bast asked, following Gohan's malicious train of thought. Because even if we build a new base city, we don't have the power to protect this city. Gohan stared at the hole. If a new base city is built, Yuan Ko will definitely be wary. In history, every time a base city is successfully built, Yuan Ko's army will come to attack it. Only by defeating Yuan Ko's army can the base city be successfully built. Yuan Ko's attack at that time was not on the scale it is today. Loki only brought less than 200,000 Yuan Kos to attack. In the resistance battle of the base city, they wouldn't even be able to fight 1/10 of Yuan Ko's army. That was a battle that even a primordial grade Yuan Ko would have to fight. When Jetian Jiendi defended the city, 3 primordial grade Yuan Kos appeared one after another, and Jetian resisted them all by himself. In the case that the core area of Yuzhong City has already blossomed, if only one primordial grade Yuan Ko had taken action, there would be no need to fight this time. Even if they resist Yuan Ko's attack for a while, it will be very difficult to continue in the world for a long time. After all, Jiendi can only exist for a few decades at most. When the base city is built and Jiendi ascends, how can they resist it? Therefore, the importance of the dimensional wall can be seen. Only a dimensional wall that can withstand a full blow from a primordial grade Yuan Ko can ensure the safety of human beings living in the base city. To protect a super large city like the base city, a super-dimensional wall system is necessary. Therefore, the number of human base cities is never determined by humans themselves, but by the number of super-dimensional wall system. The number of super-dimensional wall system built determines the number of base cities that can be built. The core of the super-dimensional wall system, the most critical part, the key energy core that provides energy support for the entire super-dimensional wall system, is none other than the Emperor-type dimensional crystal mine. Only the Emperor-type dimensional crystal mine can withstand the attack of a primordial grade level 2 Yuan Ko. Do you understand? I understand now. Based on what you said, there must be an Emperor Zerg in Yuzhong City's super-dimensional protection system. Rocky must have his eyes on the Emperor Zerg's dimension crystal and wanted to take it for his own use. Bast finally understood. This Emperor-type dimensional wall system is very important to Yuzhong City. If we lose this Emperor-type dimensional wall system, the entire dimensional wall system will become an empty shell. I must not let Loki take this Emperor-type dimensional crystal mine. Otherwise, even if Loki is defeated, the entire Yuzhong City will be completely finished. Gohan took out a bottle of beer from his dimensional pocket and poured it into his mouth. Then, he took out his personal terminal and ordered in the general channel. Everyone, I am the temporary commander-in-chief of Yuzhong City, Gohan. I order all the sword-bearers, regardless of whether they are scattered in various places or in the temporary base of Yangming High School, immediately abandon the core area and evacuate from the core area. Head to the city walls of Yuzhong City and defend the last line of defense. Brothers, I am counting on you. With that, Gohan hung up the communication. Bast, Ice Eyes, Anubis, are you afraid of heights? Gohan suddenly asked without any rhyme or reason. Then, he jumped into the cave and disappeared inside. F***ck, we are gods. We are people who live in the sky. How can we be afraid of heights? Bast said in disdain. Then, Gohan jumped down. Ice Eyes and Anubis followed behind him and jumped down one by one. What does the military governor mean? Leimu ended the communication. The other commanders looked at each other. We have already cleaned up most of the Yuan Ko in the area. It is time to surround the service center and eliminate Yuan Ko in one fell swoop. Why did the military governor order us to return to the city wall? Then why did we work so hard to rush into the core area? One person asked in confusion. What are you asking? The military governor must have his reasons for giving such orders. We just need to follow the orders. Leimu glared at the person. All right, since the military governor has given the order, immediately take your troops and guard the city wall. Could it be that there is a problem with Yuzhang City's super-dimensional wall? Seeing the other commanders leave, Leimu secretly guessed in his heart. He had already guessed that there was a problem with the super-dimensional wall. That was why the military governor ordered all the sword-bearers to rush back to the city wall immediately. This was to prevent the entire ordinary area from being exposed to the threat of Yuan Ko. Fine. I will leave everything to the military governor. I can only leave it to him. Leimu thought to himself and began to command his sword-bearers to retreat from the core area. The outer wall of this hole is made of alloy material. In the process of falling, Bast was still in the mood to study the inner wall of the hole. He found that the wall was actually made of alloy with dimensional crystals. Judging from the falling speed, the thickness of the core layer was more than 500 meters. A simple calculation showed that the dimensional alloy material needed to make this core was extremely terrifying. If converted to human RMB, it would cost at least trillions. Judging from the feel, the wall of this hole seems to have been forcefully melted by some kind of power. My God, has Loki's power reached such a terrifying level? In less than a day, he actually melted a dimensional alloy ball with a radius of more than 500 meters and created such a hole. Thinking of this, Bast had goosebumps. This kind of power was not something that a young-level Yuan Ko should have. Perhaps only a young-level Yuan Ko could do this. While thinking about this, Bast suddenly felt that he had fallen to the bottom. Guhan, who had arrived one step ahead of him, pressed a button on his personal terminal. The entire area was instantly lit up like sunlight, illuminating the surroundings. It was a circular hall that had a sci-fi feel to it. It was surrounded by various silver-white equipment. In the middle of the hall, there was a huge iron ball with a diameter of about 5 meters. It was surrounded by layers of equipment. In front of the iron ball stood 3 surprised Yuan Ko: Loki, Hela, and Misaka Mikoto. Gohan looked at the 3 people in front of the iron ball and gritted his teeth. The 3 of you have been looking for me for a long time. Who are you? I don't have your name in my information. Loki, the big boss, finally revealed his true form in front of Gohan for the first time. He was a handsome man with a hint of evil charm. Alright, no matter what, thank you for turning on the light. It's really annoying to do things in the dark. Loki smiled at Gohan and thanked him. Chapter 545. You are Loki. Gohan slowly walked to the front of Loki. Behind him were the 3 Egyptian gods. The aura of both sides was like 2 gangsters leading their brothers to face each other. I am Loki. May I know your name, my friend? Loki's smile was very amiable. He looked at Gohan as if he was looking at a good brother. People who did not know better would think that they were 2 friends who had not seen each other for a long time. My name is Gohan. Of course, you probably haven't heard of me before. Gohan replied very seriously. Gohan, so you are Gohan. Unexpectedly, Loki nodded vigorously. I know you. You are the first sword-bearer in Yuzhang City to synchronize the heavenly sword in 350 years. You are also the disciple of that little fellow Lu Lei. You also went to the formation that I Ching left behind and obtained a lot of benefit. Am I right? You know quite a lot. Gohan's pupils shrank. He did not expect Loki to know so much about him. It's nothing, it's nothing. Our Norse pantheon naturally pays attention to a potential sword-bearer like you, my friend Gohan. In my opinion, my friend Gohan, you can at least become an immortal sword-level sword-bearer in the future. It is even possible for you to become an Emperor sword-level sword-bearer. When I first saw the longevity Jiendi and the longevity Xia Jiendi, I said the same thing to them. Unexpectedly, Loki was a little talkative and kept talking to Gohan. Come. Although we are opponents, and although we should be fighting soon, but before the battle, let's shake hands, okay? With that said, Rocky stretched out a hand and handed it to Gohan. Loki's hand put Gohan in a dilemma. If he shook hands, who knew if Loki, the cunning fellow, would take advantage of the handshake to launch a sneak attack on Gohan? If he did not shake hands, then Gohan would naturally lose in terms of momentum. If Gohan was a little narrow-minded, he might always remember that he did not dare to shake hands with Loki, which might become a mental barrier in Gohan's heart. Loki was indeed Loki. With just a small handshake, he forced Gohan into a bit of a panic. There's still a problem with my own strength. Even if I'm just a spirit sword-level swordsman, when facing Loki's outstretched hand, I can still hold it calmly. I'm not afraid of Loki playing any insidious tricks. Gohan sighed in his heart. He took a step back and stood behind Bast and the others. He shook his head and said to Loki, "The fear in my heart still prevails. I do not dare to shake this hand." Clap, clap, clap. When Loki heard Gohan's words, he immediately took back his outstretched hand and replaced it with two hands. He gently clapped together. I once extended my hand to 5 people who I thought had potential. 2 of them shook my hand, and then they became the longevity Jiendi and the longevity Xia Jiendi. But the other 3, I have not heard of their future. Oh! So, the 3 seniors are like me, not daring to shake Lord Loki's hand, and then disappeared into the crowd? It seems that I, Gohan, have no great achievements in the future. Gohan said calmly. No, no, no. You are wrong. Loki waved his hand. The other 3 also shook hands with me. But at the moment I shook hands with them, I used my divine power to burst their flesh and blood, and they died on the spot. Dead people naturally have no future. As for the longevity Jiendi and the longevity Jiendi, they are really powerful. One actually withstood the impact of my divine power, and the other decisively cut off his right hand. TSK, now that I think about it, to be able to force the longevity Xia Jiendi to cut off his own arm, even if I was chased by him for 10 days and 10 nights, I am still satisfied. When Loki talked about being chased by the longevity Xia Jiendi, he showed a nostalgic look. As for Gohan, my little friend, although there are people who dare not shake hands with me, they all try to use various words to prove that they are not afraid of me. Little friend, you are the first one who can calmly admit the fear in his heart. So that's how it is. I am ashamed. Gohan showed a look of shame on his face. He thought for a while, and once again stood in front of Batet and the others. This time, it was Gohan who took the initiative to stretch out his hand. Lord Loki, Gohan is ashamed. I don't know if Lord is willing to forgive Gohan's cowardice. Interesting. Interesting. Seeing Gohan stretch out his hand, Loki was obviously stunned. What kind of trick was this? He had never played this game before, and this was different from what he had imagined. But would Loki refuse the hand that Gohan stretched out? Of course not. He, Loki, was the god-king of the Norse pantheon. In the face of a mortal who stretched out his hand to provoke him, he could not refuse. Could it be that a mere sword-wielder of the treasure sword level could hurt him? So, Loki smiled disdainfully, and once again stretched out his hand, preparing to shake Gohan's hand. Batet, Ice Eyes, and Anubis all stared at the 2 hands that were about to shake. They did not believe that Loki was a good person. If Loki wanted to kill Gohan, they would immediately save Gohan. Just as the 2 hands were less than a centimeter apart, about to shake hands. All of a sudden, a long sword with a yellow glow appeared in one of his hands, and he forcefully smashed it against the other hand that was reaching over. Despicable mortal! Loki immediately felt that something was wrong when the sword appeared, and the anger in his heart burned infinitely. Good heavens, he had always been the one using this trick to toy with others, but today, he was being toyed with by a treasure sword-level sword wielder. You will pay the price. Loki did not even look at the sword that was slashing towards him. What could a sword wielder of the sword wielder be capable of? Even the heaven-reliant sword could not break through his protective divine power. This kid actually dared to use a sword to plot against him. Fine, if you dare to stretch out your hand, I will crush your bones. However, the development of the situation was far beyond Loki's expectations. A sharp pain came from his arm. This pain was so intense that Loki subconsciously withdrew his hand and gave up on attacking Gohan's wrist. How is this possible? How could your sword break through my protective divine power? After withdrawing his hand, Loki discovered that there was a wound on his arm that could see the bone. This was not something that a sword wielder could do. I don't know what the name of this sword is, but it is not embarrassing for Lord Loki to be injured by this sword. The sword in Gohan's hand was the Yellow Emperor's sword that he obtained from I Ching. As an authentic Emperor's sword, although Gohan could not use it normally, the sharpness of the blade could break through the protective divine power of a defenseless universe-level Yuan Ko. Emperor's sword. You are actually holding an Emperor's sword. Loki's pupils shrank. No, I have never seen this Emperor's sword before. This is not the Emperor's sword that you humans have used before. So there is something that even your Majesty Loki cannot recognize. Gohan held the Emperor's sword tightly in his hand. In fact, Gohan was not sure if he could use this Emperor's sword to break through Loki's protective divine power. After all, he was only using the main body of the Emperor's sword and did not synchronize the sword lady with the Emperor's sword. Speaking of which, if he had really synchronized the sword lady, Gohan would have directly dismembered Rocky into 1,000 pieces. There would not be a need for this psychological battle. Very good. Very good. You have courage and insight. You are even more terrifying than Xingxia Jiandi. Back then, Xingxia was able to chase me for 10 days and 10 nights in the future. If I let you have a future, then I'm afraid I will have to go to the other side of the dimensional whirlpool. Little friend, no matter what, you will not be able to survive today. Let me, Loki, send you on your way. After saying that, Loki's divine power surged from his body. A wave of divine power that belonged to universe-level Yuan Ko gushed out and pressed down on Gohan, making it difficult for Gohan to breathe. Humph, Loki, if you want to send Gohan on his way, have you asked the three of us first? Finally, it was time for Batet to appear. The three of them blocked the cold behind their bodies, and at the same time, their bodies surged with divine power that was no weaker than Loki's, instantly blocking Loki's aura. Bast. Isis. Anubis. Do the three of you really think I don't know you? Loki looked at the three of them with fiery eyes. When your Egyptian pantheon was in trouble, we, the Norse pantheon, were kind enough to help you save your lives from the hands of Half-Day Jiandi. However, you betrayed us and became Jation's lackeys. After not seeing you for 700 years, I thought you had been killed by Jation. I didn't expect you to jump out again. What's wrong? Haven't you gotten tired of being Jation's lackeys? I understand. This human went to the ruins left behind by Jation. It seems like you were locked there for more than 700 years and were only released a few days ago, right? Loki was indeed Yuan Ko, who was known for his intelligence. He easily guessed the origins of the three of them. I say, how despicable are you? After being locked up by Jation for 700 years, not only did you not come out to kill Jation's descendants, but you still shamelessly continue to be their dogs. The Egyptian pantheon's face has been thrown away by you three bitches. Loki's words were extremely vicious, extremely humiliating, and extremely cunning. Bast and the other two were so angry that their faces turned purple. This was not the most infuriating thing. The most infuriating thing was that Bast and the other two couldn't even retort, because in their hearts, Loki's words were the truth. He had poked at the most painful point in their hearts. Hadn't they been I Ching's dogs for decades, then mercilessly imprisoned for 700 years, and after being released, they had become I Ching's men's dogs? In fact, this was a very vicious provocation. At the very least, the three of them began to hesitate. Were they really going to shamelessly become I Ching and Gohan's lackeys? In the face of Loki's provocation, Gohan knew that he had to immediately appease the three of them. Otherwise, they would be in big trouble. The easiest way seemed to be to threaten them with divinities. But using divinities to threaten the three of them at this time was the stupidest. This would make Bast and the other two's rebellious mentality reach its peak. They might even break their divinities and fall out with Gohan. So Gohan could only use words to appease their emotions. "There is no turning back for you," Gohan said in a calm and rational voice. "If you betray me again at this time, won't you be betraying me again? You will be worse than dogs. If you really want everyone or Yuan-Ko to shut up, the best way is not to do what they want, but to step on the corpses of all the enemies who dare to mock you and use the dimensional vortex to shut them up." Gohan's words calmed the three of them down, and they began to think seriously. "In the future, you will no longer be Yuan-Ko, but free men who will step on the corpses of the entire Norse pantheon. Free men who have truly obtained their own freedom. At that time, the Egyptian pantheon, as free men, will be reborn in flames and corpses. You will be the king of the Egyptian pantheon." In an instant, the divine power of the three of them surged to the peak. Gohan vs. Loki, Round 2, Gohan 1. Chapter 546. Hela, you and I will deal with these three traitors. The battle was inevitable. Rocky held his precious daughter's hand and faced Bast and Ice Eyes with her. "Misaka Mikoto, if you want your friends to be safe, then be a good girl and melt this metal ball. Take out the Imperial Zergs inside and give them to me. I guarantee that they will return to Freedom Metropolis safely. But if you dare to play any tricks, then your friends will die. Others might be afraid of your city, but I'm not. At most, I'll just stay on Mount Olympus and never leave the mountain," Rocky said sinisterly. Gohan was annoyed when he heard Rocky's threat. Misaka Mikoto, this stupid woman. Sure enough, Rocky used her friends' lives to threaten her. Didn't he tell her to kill Rocky in one fell swoop, while Rocky did not know that she had become a universe-level freedom being? Idiot, do you think? Bast was amused when he heard Rocky threatening Misaka Mikoto with the lives of her friends. Misaka Mikoto's friends had already been rescued by Gohan, but Rocky was still using them to threaten Misaka Mikoto. Thinking of this, Bast naturally wanted to expose Loki's joke. However, Bast was stopped by Gohan before he could finish his sentence. Bast understood and shut his mouth obediently. "Miss Misaka, although this is our first time meeting, I've long admired your reputation. You're a great freedom being, and your every move represents the will of Freedom Metropolis. Please reconsider. Your current actions have seriously violated the contract between us humans and the Freedom Metropolis. Are you freedom beings going to destroy the peace between humans and the Freedom Metropolis?" Gohan said to Misaka Mikoto in a righteous tone. It was as if he had never interacted with Misaka Mikoto before. Misaka Mikoto was dumbfounded when she heard Gohan's words, but she immediately reacted. She still did not speak. However, there was a hesitant expression on her face, as if she was moved by Gohan's words. So what if the peace between you freedom beings and humans is gone?" Rocky sneered. "Humans only have 2 Gendi now, but we have a total of 9 primitive-grade powerhouses. If we could unite, these pathetic humans would have died long ago. Furthermore, according to the humans' intelligence, the period they call the difficult sword era is coming again. Humans managed to muddle through the first 2 difficult sword eras, but it's different this time. Our dimensional factions have already made up their minds. The moment the difficult sword era arrives, we will put down our prejudices against each other and crush these cockroach-like humans to death. Ms. Misaka, when that time comes, it will be impossible for the Freedom Metropolis to ride in the middle. Humans will definitely perish, and the dimensional power will purify this world. Why don't you abandon the darkness and seek the light? Return to the embrace of our dimensional organizations. Rocky's words seemed to make Misaka Mikoto hesitate again. Hence, Rocky struck while the iron was hot and said, "Besides, Ms. Misaka, I only need you to melt this metal ball and extract the Imperial Zerg inside. You don't need to directly become an enemy of humans. You don't even need to touch a drop of human blood. This doesn't violate the contract between the Freedom Metropolis and humans. Let me ask you, do you want these humans to die, or do you want your friends to die?" Rocky's last sentence directly hit the softest spot in Misaka Mikoto's heart. She struggled to look forward and saw Gohan closing his eyes helplessly and shaking his head. "I understand. I'll only help you extract the Imperial Zerg. I won't do anything else," Misaka Mikoto said coldly. She then placed her hand into the big metal ball behind her that had melted into a hole. The hole was uneven and looked like the surface of a candle. It did not look like a hole that had originally been there. Instead, it looked like it had been forcefully peeled off by something extremely hot. It seemed like Misaka Mikoto had melted a part of the Gendi alloy before Gohan arrived. "That's impossible. She's a universe-level Yuan-ko. How could she melt this Gendi alloy?" Gohan said in horror when he saw the Gendi alloy melting in Misaka Mikoto's hand. "This is something that only a primeval-level Yuan-ko can do." The Imperial Zerg's last line of defense was the inconspicuous metal ball in front of them. In reality, it was made by Gendi by combining hundreds of Duke-dimensional crystals with the strongest alloy researched by humans. It was the Gendi alloy. The alloy had no other special characteristics other than its hardness. It was extremely hard. It was so hard that no other Yuan-ko other than a primeval level 2 Yuan-ko could destroy it within a year. Haha, it's impossible for other universe-level Yuan-ko to touch this Gendi alloy. But for this super electromagnetic gun, it's a very easy thing to do. Rocky smiled proudly. This super electromagnetic gun's control of electricity has reached the level of electrons. She just needs to strip all the electrons from the alloy, and the alloy's structure will naturally be destroyed. The Imperial Zerg that you're so proud of won't have the word gold anymore. Where can you get it? D*Eminent, we can't delay any longer. Batet, Ice Eyes, Anubis, do it! Take back the Imperial Zerg alloy. As soon as Gohan gave the order, Batet and the other two divine powers surged out of their bodies and shot toward Rocky. Rocky naturally did not show any weakness. Together with his daughter, Hela, they fought with Batet and the other two divine powers. Soon, the battle between the 5 Yuan-kos reached its climax, and all of them used their trump cards. Unfortunately, the 3 Egyptian gods could not exert 100% of their combat power at this time. Bastet's weapon was a pair of cat claws in his hands. Originally, Bastet's greatest ability was his charm ability. Unfortunately, this ability had no effect on an opponent like Yuan-ko, who was also a universe level. Therefore, Bastet's greatest attack method was his ability to tear space apart. Ice Eyes was the goddess of earth and fertility. If she could come into direct contact with the earth, she would be able to exert great combat power. Unfortunately, this was the interior of a huge iron ball made by humans. Naturally, the connection between Ice Eyes and the earth was cut off. As for Anubis, his strongest ability was Judgment of the Scales. This skill could send a sinful opponent directly to hell, and it was always effective when dealing with opponents who were weaker than him. However, when facing an opponent of the same level, he had to seriously injure the opponent before he could use it. This was a little useless. At this time, Anubis could only rely on his scepter to use the power of hellfire to fight with his opponent. Compared to the three Egyptian gods who could not exert 100% of their strength, Rocky and the other two universe-level Yuan Kos could exert their absolute strength. As Odin's younger brother, Rocky and Odin were almost two extremes. Odin was the ultimate god that all berserkers believed in. He held the divine spear Gungnir in his hand and had unparalleled melee combat ability. In the battle against the Greek pantheon, he relied on his melee combat ability to fight Athena, Apollo, and Hades at the same time. He actually defeated the three gods who were good at melee combat. He was known as the god with the strongest melee combat ability among the three Western pantheons. As Odin's younger brother, Rocky's ability was just the opposite. His ability was all in his scepter. If it was close combat, perhaps a meteor-level Yuan Ko who was good at fighting would be able to defeat Rocky. But once Loki was given space to cast spells, he would instantly turn into a terrifying humanoid self-propelled cannon. For example, at this moment, Loki's magic spells were thrown out one after another, all accurately hitting Bastet's body. Rocky's magic casting speed was extremely fast. He could throw out dozens of different spells in a second, and the elemental attributes of these spells were all different. Rocky did not seem to worry about the problem of elemental conflict at all. Moreover, the power of these spells was not weak either. Each of them was above level 7, and one hit could instantly kill a dragon-level Yuan Ko. Even a universe-level Yuan Ko would inevitably suffer a considerable amount of damage if he were to take one of these spells. Also, Rocky was very scheming to throw all these spells on Batet. Batet was a cat, and his defense and health were the lowest among the three Egyptian gods. In the game, he was an assassin with low health and low defense. Of course, Rocky would focus on Batet first and try to kill one of them first. This way, the situation of the battle would change from 2 against 3 to 2. In this way, Rocky would be invincible. Damn! Isis, Anubis, hurry up and kill this disgusting woman. I can't hold on anymore. This Rocky's firepower is so fierce. Batet screamed. He really couldn't handle Loki, the human-shaped self-propelled cannon with unlimited ammunition. Damn it, we want to do that too, but this disgusting woman is just like stinking mud. Isis also screamed. Rocky had a very resounding achievement among the gods, and that was his ability to have children was particularly strong. It was not that he could have children. Zeus had more than 30 children, but Rocky only had a total of 3 children. Rocky's ability to have children was said to be strong because all 3 of his children had, without exception, surpassed the universe-level Yuan Ko. This was unique. Generally speaking, the children of the gods would drop 1 or 2 levels. For example, Zeus was a desolation-level Yuan Ko. Among his more than 30 children, the strongest were only the universe-level Yuan Ko like Athena and Apollo. The most incredible was his eldest son, the giant wolf Fenrir. This ancestor of the werewolves was actually a universe-level Yuan Ko, 1 level higher than Rocky. If it were not for the huge conflict between Fenrir and Rocky, Yuzhang City would probably be in more trouble this time. Chapter 547. As Rocky's only daughter, Hela was the second of his 3 children. She was also at the same level as her father, Yuan Ko. As the daughter of Rocky, who was not good at close combat, Hela was the Grim Reaper who was extremely good at close combat. Hela's fighting style was a curse, the slow curse. Legend had it that if a mortal was hit by Hela's slow curse, they would only be able to take 1/10 of their steps in a year. This was basically no different from turning into a statue. More importantly, this slow curse was not like Bast's charm, which was unreliable against Yuan Ko, who was at the same level. Even Bast and the others, who were also at the same level as Yuan Ko, were slowed down by this slow curse. Everyone knew how terrifying it was to have one's attack and movement speed slowed down by several times in a battle against a U-level Yuan Ko. Relying on this slow curse, Hela was able to deal with the attacks of Bast and the others at the same time. Her weapon was actually a long spear, and she fought with Bast and the others like a heroine. It was almost impossible to break through Hela's defense in a short period of time and directly attack Rocky. Gohan, you have the most ideas. Hurry up and think of a way. I'm almost done for. Bast saw the situation and knew that he would be the first to suffer, so he immediately asked for help from Gohan, hoping that Gohan could think of a way to end this dangerous situation. At this time, Gohan was also very anxious. Although he had used the power of the Empress's sword to injure Rocky, it was only because it was out of Rocky's expectations. If Gohan really entered the battle between the U-level Yuan-Ko, then as long as Rocky or Hela used a portion of their strength, they might be able to seriously injure Gohan. The difference in strength was too big. Gohan could only hide behind Bast and the others and quickly analyze the situation in his mind, thinking of a way to help Bast and the others turn the situation around. If you want to defeat Loki, you have to get close to him. Loki's close combat ability is extremely weak. As long as any one of the three can get close to him, Loki will definitely lose. Gohan thought quickly. But now that Bast and the other two are entangled by Hela, their movement speed is greatly reduced. It's impossible for them to get close to Rocky unless we think of a way to cripple Hela's combat ability first. If I remember correctly, there are some records about the Ragnarok of the Norse pantheon. Gohan began to recall the information he had on the Ragnarok. In the legends of the humans of pre-Great Calamity times, the once massive Norse divine system was ultimately destroyed by the combined forces of Loki and the giants. At that time, the Norse pantheon and their nemesis, the frost giants, as well as various creatures that did not obey the control of the Norse pantheon, started an earth-shattering war. In the end, the huge Norse pantheon was completely destroyed. The king of gods, Odin, and his younger brother, Loki, both fell. In the end, only Odin's two sons, Davi and Valle, and Thor's two sons, Mani and Modi, survived. The information about the Ragnarok of the Ragnarok had been lost in that cultural catastrophe, but humans later found some information about the Ragnarok in a Japanese game called Soft Girl's Paradise. As a history expert, Gohan had naturally read this information. He vaguely remembered that there was a discussion about Hela's ending in this information, but he had read it in a hurry, so it was not easy to remember. Suddenly, Gohan saw that when Anubis and Hela were fighting, Hela intentionally or unintentionally avoided the flames on Anubis' scepter. She would rather take one or two of Ice Eye's attacks than be touched by the flames. I remember now. Seeing this scene, Gohan instantly recalled the chapter about Hela in the Ragnarok of the Ragnarok, the queen of the underworld of the kingdom of the dead, whose body was half red and half blue, stood on a large ship made of the nails of the dead. The ship was filled with an army of frost giants, heading towards the kingdom of the gods. The frost giants and the Valkyrie army led by the Valkyrie collided together. Both sides were so engrossed in killing that they did not notice the situation around them. Odin has fallen, Fenrir has also died, Loki has also died, and Thor has also died together with Jormungandr. Hela raised her head and found that be it enemies or comrades, all of her loved ones had fallen in this dusk. Surtur threw the invincible sword of victory into the sky, tearing the entire atrium apart. The world turned into a sea of fire, and in this fire, Hela, the master of death, finally saw her own death. From these remnants of the poem, it was clear that Hela died in the Ragnarok of the gods, and what killed her was the raging fire caused by the Sword of Victory. This Sword of Victory was not the Sword of the Lake in Artoria's hand, also known as the Sword of Victory and Covenant, but an invincible sword that originally belonged to the sun god Felix in Norse mythology. It was like the radiance of the sun. Later, Frey fell in love with Gilda, the daughter of the frost giant, the archenemy of the gods. In order to obtain this beautiful girl, Frey could only use his own sword of victory as a betrothal gift to marry Gilda. As fate would have it, this sword of victory finally fell into the hands of the king of the fire-eyed giants, Surtur. In the Ragnarok of the gods, Frey, who had lost the sword of victory, could only fight with Surtur with his antlers, and finally died in the hands of the sword of victory that once belonged to him. After killing Frey, Surtur found that all of his flame giants had died in battle. The grief-stricken Surtur used the flames of the sword of victory to destroy the entire kingdom of the gods, burning himself and Hela to death in the flames. I get it. Hela's weakness is this sword of victory. Gohan silently thought to himself. If he could use the sword of victory to attack Hela at this time, then Hela would definitely not be able to withstand it. This sword was undoubtedly Hela's nemesis. But where could Gohan find this legendary artifact like the Sword of Victory? Whether you believe it or not, at this time, the Sword of Victory was in Gohan's hands, or in other words, it was in Gohan's dimensional brocade bag. The Sword of Victory was an immortal-level sword Maiden, and it had always been kept in the Sword Pavilion of Yuzhong City. Yes, in the Sword Pavilion of Yuzhong City. The two immortal-level sword maidens of Yuzhong City did not use the Sword of Victory, so this Sword of Victory was undoubtedly still in the Sword Pavilion of Yuzhong City. Previously, in order to protect the safety of the sword maidens, Gohan had put all the natural sword maidens into his dimensional brocade bag. This immortal-level Sword of Victory just happened to be in Gohan's dimensional brocade bag. Could it be that this was the legendary Heaven's Will? Gohan did not have the time to analyze the things inside. He quietly took out the Sword of Victory from the brocade bag. This was a wide and thick sword, with all kinds of mysterious and unfathomable divine characters written on it. In the middle of the sword, there was a fiery red circular sun engraved on it, proving that this was a divine sword that came from the sun. Unfortunately, this sword in Gohan's hands was like an ordinary sword, without the slightest brilliance or strangeness. This was because this sword was not synchronized, so it naturally did not have its own master, and it could not release its own power. Looking at the lifeless Sword of Victory in his hands, Gohan asked himself silently, "Can this Sword of Victory really hurt Hela?" Although in the situation where there was no sword wielder, the original body of the Sword of Victory could still be used, just like how Gohan had used the Emperor's sword to stab Rocky. However, this was only relying on the material of the sword itself. The true power of the Emperor's sword could not be unleashed at all. Similarly, the true power of this Sword of Victory could not be unleashed. Could it cause fatal damage to Hela just by relying on the material of the Sword of Victory? Gohan did not believe this at all. However, at this moment, Gohan did not have a better idea. If he did not think of a way to kill Hela, the first to fall would be Bast. Forget it, I'll just try it as a last resort. Gohan did not have a better idea. He decided to give the Sword of Victory to Ice Eyes, hoping that she could use the Sword of Victory to deal fatal damage to Hela. If I were you, I would never do such a stupid thing. Suddenly, Gohan heard such a voice. This voice came from Gohan's hand. What was in Gohan's hand? In his left hand was the Sword of Victory that he had just taken out, and in his right hand was the Yellow Emperor's sword that had injured Rocky. "Are you talking to me, Sword Empress?" Gohan was stunned for a moment, but he immediately reacted. He had heard this voice once before. It was a loud F***CKU. If it's not me, who else could it be? The hilt of the Emperor's sword in Gohan's hand vibrated, indicating that it was indeed him. "I'll kindly tell you King idiot that the Sword of Victory should not be used like this. If you really want to use the Sword of Victory like him, there is only one way." "What way?" Gohan cleverly blocked out the profanity in the Emperor's Sword of Victory. "Didn't you King obtain a 6 revolutions immortal pill from that old man? If you bite off 1% and eat it, you will be able to use this Sword of Victory temporarily. Right, you can only bite off 1%. If you exceed 1%, I guarantee that you will not be able to see that King Golden Crow tomorrow." After saying this, the Emperor's sword of victory closed its mouth and did not speak again. Do I want to eat this 6 revolutions immortal pill? Guhan's hand trembled as he took out the 6 revolutions immortal pill from his dimensional pocket. Originally, he had planned to consider this 6 revolutions immortal pill after he became an official disciple of Rin's school. He did not expect to use it now. What is 1%? As he looked at the round pill that looked like it was made of chocolate, Guhan fell into deep thought. For a piece of chocolate, how small of a bite was it to contain 1%? Forget it, I'll leave it to fate. Guhan did not hesitate for too long. He used the tip of his teeth to pick up a bit of gravel on the surface of the pill and swallowed it. In an instant, a power that Guhan had never experienced before surged out of his abdomen and spread throughout his body. Chapter 548. Once upon a time, the power of an immortal sword wielder that he had accidentally experienced in the Instance dungeon had once again returned to Guhan's body. Guhan had a kind of confidence that as long as he had this power, he would only need 3 minutes to kill Hela and Loki. Wait, if that was the case, why would Guhan still want to kill Hela? Just go and kill Loki in a second. Guhan thought to himself. What the F***ck are you thinking? You only have 5 seconds. Hurry up and kill Hela after you rape her. Oh, you don't have to rape her, just kill her. The Sword Emperor lady urged him happily. Oh my god, what was in the head of the Sword Emperor lady? Guhan once again refreshed his speculation about the Sword Emperor lady. At the same time, Guhan thought to himself that if he wanted to ascend to the throne one day, he would definitely not choose this ancestor in his hands. Since he only had 5 seconds, it was naturally unrealistic to kill Rocky. Guhan held the victory sword tightly in his hand, and the massive amount of sword essence of an immortal sword wielder in his body poured into the victory sword. The originally ordinary sword blade instantly burned with a scorching flame that was as hot as the sun. Holding this sword of victory that was so hot that it seemed to be able to scorch the ocean, Guhan roared and prepared to leap up and kill Hela with his sword. At this crucial moment, Guhan's body suddenly stiffened. Like a stone statue, he fell to the ground. The sword of victory in his hand also disappeared. F***ck. I can't synchronize. This was the last thought that came to Guhan before he turned into a stone statue. No one noticed what happened to Guhan. Bast and the other 2 were trying their best to break free from Hela and kill Loki, while Hela tried her best to keep Bast and the other 2 by her side. Hela, on the other hand, was trying her best to keep Bast and the other 2 by her side. As for Loki, he had already immersed himself in the business of self-propelled cannons, casting faster and faster spells. Naturally, he did not have the spare energy to pay attention to the ants like Guhan. Therefore, Guhan lay silently on the ground for 5 seconds. After 5 seconds, Guhan returned to his human form and sat up in a daze. He had never thought that he would end up like this. Guhan only thought that having the power of an immortal sword wielder for 5 seconds would allow him to help Bast and the others kill Hela. However, he did not expect that when the sword essence in his body exceeded 1 million quarks, he would already meet the synchronization condition of an immortal sword wielder. Victory Sword. This dignified immortal sword wielder, second only to the Sword Empress, did not hold back at all and synchronized with Guhan without hesitation. The blade also entered Guhan's body, and when it started to nurture the sword infant, Guhan jumped out of the synchronization state again. The reason was simple. Guhan's immortal sword-level swordsman state could only be maintained for 5 seconds. After 5 seconds, the temporary buff from the immortal sword-level swordsman state brought about by the 6 revolutions immortal pill would lose its effect, and Guhan would revert back to a treasured sword-level swordsman state. The sword elements in his body would naturally not be enough to support the synchronization of the immortal sword-level sword of victory, and Guhan would forcibly exit the synchronization state. Normally, the synchronization time of an immortal sword wielder would be about an hour, but Gohan only used 5 seconds to forcibly exit. The danger was obvious. Since ancient times, those sword-bearers who forcibly withdrew from the synchronized state would have to vomit 3 liters of blood, and would need to recuperate for a year and a half. Those with bad luck would have their purple palace shattered, and from then on, they would become an ordinary person, and would no longer be able to think about being a sword-bearer. As for those with the worst luck, there was nothing much to say, and they would die. Generally speaking, 8 out of 10 people would fall into the category of having the worst luck. Therefore, one had to praise Gohan's good luck. After playing such a trick, he actually woke up completely fine. The purple palace in his body was still fine, and the victory sword had once again appeared in Gohan's hand as if nothing had happened. However, Gohan still felt the seriousness of the problem, because when Gohan roughly glanced at his purple palace, he found that there was another sword mark in his purple palace. Strictly speaking, it was an embryo that had not yet formed. Normal sword marks were the same size as the sword wielder, but the new sword mark in Gohan's body was only the size of a pea. Moreover, it didn't look like a sword mark. Although it was small, it had a head, hands, and feet. It looked more like a baby. It might be more appropriate to say that it was an embryo. This was also very easy to understand. It was like 10 months of pregnancy. In the first few weeks of pregnancy, the fertilized egg would develop into a small embryo that had the shape of a baby. And the embryo in Gohan's body was the same. 5 seconds of synchronization was still 5 seconds. Forming the shape of an embryo was nothing strange. When the synchronization began, the sword wielder would first become like a developing embryo. It would first become the sword wielder's baby, and then this baby would be born from Gohan's purple palace. The umbilical cord that connected the baby and the purple palace would naturally evolve into the shape of a sword mark. This was the process of synchronization of the sword wielder's entire body. Now that the victory sword wielder was stuck at the first 5 seconds, it was very normal for it to form a pea-sized baby embryo. Then, does this count as a success or a failure? At this moment, Gohan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The feeling when Gohan held the victory sword now was completely different from before. Previously, when he held the victory sword, it felt like he was holding an ordinary sword. But now, when he held the victory sword, he felt like it was connected by blood. This feeling was the same as when Gohan held Qing Pin, Heavenly Sword, and Du. After Gohan poured a pitiful amount of his sword essence into the victory sword indeed recovered its spirituality. Once again, it burned with a sun-like flame. However, compared to the flame triggered by the immortal sword wielder, it was a little too weak. Previously, the flame was like a sun. Now it was at most at the level of a matchstick. Congratulations! You're now a immortal sword wielder. Gohan, who was silent, suddenly heard the Emperor's sword's somewhat despicable voice. His heart moved, and an idea surfaced in his mind. You didn't expect this to happen, did you? Gohan looked at the Emperor's sword in his hand. You deliberately made me synchronize and coordinate the victory sword. You planned all of this, didn't you? Why, you finally realized it? Am I too goddamn smart? The Emperor's sword said excitedly. You really don't have to thank me. This is what I should do. I still have to thank you. Gohan's face was as black as coal. Yo, you've become a immortal sword wielder. Shouldn't you thank me? How many people in this world are willing to give up their lives just to become a immortal sword wielder? You King want to show off after taking advantage of me. The Emperor's sword said hatefully. What kind of immortal sword wielder is this? Using this sword to fight is not as smooth as using Heaven Reliance and you. The more Gohan looked at the victory sword in his hand, the more the anger in his heart burned. Isn't that to be expected? You're just a treasure sword wielder. Using an immortal sword wielder is naturally not as smooth as using a treasure sword wielder. However, as long as your sword essence reaches 1,000,000 quarks, you can instantly become a immortal sword wielder. You should know better than me how many spiritual sword wielder there are in this world who have millions of quarks of sword essence, but cannot synchronize with their immortal sword. Don't worry. Although it's a little early, there are no side effects. Once you reach 1,000,000 quarks, you'll be a proper immortal sword wielder. You won't be any different from other immortal sword wielder. I guarantee you with my Emperor's sword's face. The Emperor's sword said in a tone that implied that Gohan did not know how lucky he was. Indeed, Gohan did not know how lucky he was. The victory sword is not in my plan. Gohan was not moved by the Emperor's sword's words at all. He said dryly, "Do you have a way to take out this sword mark? I don't want to become a victory sword wielder." "Why?" The Emperor's sword curled its lips. "Isn't the victory sword good?" "Of course not." Gohan's face became darker and darker. The Immortal Sword record has a total of 32 Immortal Sword wielder. Her victory sword is ranked 32nd in the Immortal Sword record. Of course I don't want it. Well, it was ranked 32nd out of 32 Immortal Swords. In other words, the victory sword was the worst Immortal Sword wielder. It was no wonder that Gohan was so unhappy. Although his ancient sword wielder, the Chinpin sword, did not have a ranking, after such a long battle, even a fool would know that the Chinpin sword was definitely number 1 among the ancient sword wielder. Of the 2 treasure sword wielders, one was the number 1 treasure sword, Etienne sword, and the other was the number 2 treasure sword, Yuchang sword. Both the number 1 and 2 treasure sword wielder had been taken by Gohan. The famed sword wielder had already been decided to be Yu King sword. Although Yu King sword was only ranked 17th, it was because of their deep friendship. Without this friendship, Gohan's goal would be the number 1 famed sword, the 3-foot sword, or the Juzi sword that was said to be able to compete with the 3-foot sword for the number 1 famed sword. As for the spiritual sword wielder, Gohan had already decided to be the top 3 spiritual sword wielder. Naturally, the immortal sword was no exception. Looking at the statistics, one would find that the sword wielder that Gohan had now was the best among those of the same level. This experience had formed a very bad habit in Gohan, or rather, habitual thinking. Gohan's sword wielder must be the strongest sword wielder. Therefore, when Gohan found out that his immortal sword wielder had been decided by the victory sword, which was ranked last in the immortal sword wielder, one could imagine the dissatisfaction and anger in his heart. You let a straight-A student, who was the top student in elementary school, suddenly fall to the bottom of the grade in high school. Naturally, he was not happy. Motherf **Ker, I can't believe I Ching actually fancied this kind of person. Emperor Sword suddenly scolded in a very disgusted tone. You really are an idiot. How did someone like you become a sword wielder? Don't you guys have something called cut black hair? Go get one, and naturally, all the sword scars will be removed. You will never become an Emperor Sword wielder in this lifetime, I promise. After saying that, Emperor Sword's voice disappeared. Gohan knew that he had offended Emperor Sword wielder greatly. Moreover, Emperor Sword wielder had conveniently raised a flag above his head. Was I wrong? Gohan looked at the victory sword in his hand, and asked himself silently. I understand. I was really wrong. Gohan casually snapped the flag that had been raised above his head, and touched the sword of victory in his hand. He had already realized the arrogance of his own mind. I'm sorry, I was wrong. The sword lady is not noble or lowly. Please forgive me. From today onwards, you are my immortal sword wielder. Gohan, have you King thought of a solution? I'm about to die. At this time, Batet let out a ghostly cry. His body had already been charred by Loki's magic. It seemed that his divine power shield had been broken by Loki. Forget it. Let's solve the problem in front of us first. Gohan held the victory sword in his hand and leaped up. In a flash, he landed on Hela's head. Chapter 549. Hela, who was busy fighting with Bast and the other two, felt very proud. Fighting 3 opponents of the same level alone, her name would definitely be known throughout the world. On the Universe Level Yuan Co catalog list compiled by the humans, she would probably be promoted a few more places. Just like how the Sword Ladies had the Ancient Sword Record and Famous Sword Record, the Sword Bearers had the Ancient Sword Ranking and Famous Sword Ranking. The humans had naturally created a list for Yuan Co called Yuan Co Catalog, and all the known Yuan Co would be listed on this list. Although this was compiled by the humans for their own use, and to Yuan Co, this should be something that they abhor, in reality, the Yuan Co catalog was very popular among Yuan Co. Everyone wanted to advance a few names on the Yuan Co catalog, and the top 10 of the Yuan Co catalog. Yuan Co was also very arrogant and respected by all the Yuan Co. P.S. Yesterday, a reader asked me why the Sword Bearers and the Sword Ladies had rankings, but not Yuan Co. This is illogical. The author thought about it. Indeed, the author had forgotten about this setting. There should be something to rank Yuan Co, so today, the Yuan Co catalog made its debut. Of course, it will feel a little abrupt now, and the reading will be a little unpleasant. The author apologizes to everyone, "I'm sorry." Just as Hela was fantasizing, a huge sense of danger suddenly surged from her bones, from her divinity. This was an unforgettable feeling. Once upon a time, on that dusk when even the sky was burning, she had been buried in the sea of fire with this feeling. I have to escape. This was Hela's first reaction. Then, she gave up fighting the 3 Egyptian gods in front of her without hesitation, turned around, and began to escape. However, at this time, she did not want to tangle with the 3 Egyptian gods, but the 3 Egyptian gods did not let her go. Bast and the other 2 immediately wrapped themselves around her. One hugged her waist, one hugged her tail, and the last one grabbed both of her hands. In an instant, Hela was unable to move. Die. Hela only saw an extremely familiar flame flash past, and the burning sensation that had once made Hela wish she was dead once again descended upon her body. Just as Gohan had guessed, the Sword of Victory had an extraordinary restraining ability against Hela. Even when Gohan used it as a treasure sword wielder, he could easily ignore Hela's protective divine power and pierce through her heart, causing her body to start burning. Hela. Seeing this, Loki's expression changed drastically. "Medusa, are you still not going to act?" "Ahahaha. Your Majesty God King Loki, didn't you tell me that the 2 of you can kill these traitors of Egypt?" The void was torn open again, and a vicious woman with 9 snakes on her head walked out. Gohan had seen this Yuan Co before. It was Medusa, who had almost sent Gohan to the abyss of death more than a month ago. As soon as Medusa came out of the void, the 9 giant snakes on her head appeared in front of Bast and the others in an instant, and a dark red ray of light went straight for the eyes of Bast and the other 2. Bast and the other 2 were very familiar with Medusa, so they immediately closed their eyes and used their godly spirits to protect their eyeballs. Only then did they not directly turn into stone statues by Medusa's dark red ray of light. However, after being disturbed by Medusa, the heavily injured Hela took the opportunity to struggle out. Medusa's 2 giant snakes coiled around Hela's waist and brought her to Loki's side. "Damn it! This is the flame of the Sword of Victory. How could I forget that she's still in Yuzhong City?" Loki saw the sun-like flames on his daughter's body, and his heart ached terribly. "I say, Loki, you'd better think of a way to save your little lover. This flame is very powerful, and I think your little lover will soon be burned to ashes," Medusa said gloatingly. However, Medusa was not wrong. If the flame of the Sword of Victory was not dealt with, Hela would really die. However, as a divine weapon born in the sun, how could the flame of the Sword of Victory be so easily extinguished? In the world of the Norse gods, the flame of the Sword of Victory was said to be extinguished only by life, which meant that the flame would only be extinguished when the person who ignited it died. Once upon a time, the entire divine kingdom of Northern Europe was ignited by the flames of the Sword of Victory, and there was no way to put it out manually. The survivors could only watch the flames burn Asgard into ashes. It was not until all the lives on the land were gone that the flames finally extinguished. This showed how terrifying the sun flame on the Sword of Victory was. The Sword of Victory and Loki were both divine weapons of the same divine system and dimension. In order to deal with the threat of the Sword of Victory, Loki had already figured out many ways to deal with the Sword of Victory, especially the sun flame burning on the Sword of Victory. Loki had come up with no less than 10 ways to extinguish this damn flame. However, later on, Frey dug his own grave and gave the Sword of Victory as a betrothal gift to his ally, the Flame Giant King. The Sword of Victory became Loki's weapon instead, and the method Loki had prepared was no longer useful. After coming to this world, Loki thought that the method he had painstakingly thought of to deal with the flame of the Sword of Victory would no longer be useful, but he did not expect it to come in handy now. Medusa, bite Hela's body and inject your venom into Hela's body, Loki said with a cold face. My venom? Medusa was stunned. Loki, you have to think carefully. My venom is prepared for Poseidon, and this is a venom that can even poison Poseidon to death. Are you sure your daughter can withstand my venom? Of course, as long as I tell you to stop, you will stop, Loki said with a livid face. Loki said with a livid face. 8 of the 9 heads of the Medusa stared at Bast and the other 2, while the last one bit Hela's arm and injected the venom in its mouth into Hela's body. As expected, as the venom was injected, the flames on Hela's body gradually disappeared. Stop. Loki stared closely at the condition of Hela's body. When the flame weakened, he immediately opened his mouth and told Medusa to stop. Although Medusa did stop as she was told, her expression was a little unfriendly. Loki, you'd better get this straight. I'm your collaborator, not your subordinate. If you dare to speak to me in such a commanding tone again, I'll kill both of you immediately. Medusa's words made Loki's breath stagnate, but he had to lower his head when he was under someone else's roof. Loki could only nod in agreement. Then, my dear collaborator, Miss Medusa, can I ask you to fulfill your obligations as a collaborator and clean up all these damn humans and traitors for me? Loki said through gritted teeth. However, from the conversation between him and Medusa, the two did not seem to be close collaborators. Otherwise, why did Medusa not come out at the beginning and only jump out of the void after Hela was injured? But soon, the answer to this question was found from the conversation between Medusa and Loki. Medusa said to Loki without any trace of politeness, Loki, according to our agreement, once I make a move, the creation quintessence must be kept by me. Do you agree? I agree. Loki's expression became even more gloomy. Then make a divine wish to your divine spark. Medusa pressed on step by step. The god's wish that Medusa spoke of was a vow made by a deity with his own divinity as the capital. Once this vow was violated, even if it was a deity, his divinity would be instantly devoured by his own vow. If it was light, he would be seriously injured and unable to get up. If it was heavy, his divinity would directly shatter. Every deity was a monster that had lived for hundreds or thousands of years. Each of them was naturally extremely cunning. Without something like a divine wish to restrain them, there was no trust between deities at all. Of course, divine wishes could only be used between deities. Between deities and non-deities, or between deities and sword-bearers, divine wishes could not be used to maintain trust. The current king of the Norse deities, Loki, swears on his divine spark to the void. As long as Medusa helps me defeat these humans, obtain the Imperial Zerg, and destroy Yuzhong City, I will hand the creation divine spark to Medusa for safekeeping until Medusa kills Poseidon. Loki said this word by word very clearly. Medusa read it a few times and felt that there were no loopholes. Then, the 9 snake heads started to laugh crazily. Good, good, good. You humans and traitors will become my sacrifices on the way to kill Poseidon. Medusa laughed maniacally. The 9 snake heads instantly turned into 9 giant snakes. They spat out their snake natures and attacked the dumbfounded Bast and the other 2. What a joke, Medusa. You're just a level Yuan-ko. What can you rely on to defeat 3 of us deities? Bast said disdainfully. It was not like he had never fought with Medusa in the past. Medusa, this stupid snake, had never been able to defeat Bast. Medusa was a snake, but Bast was a cat. He had searched on Baidu about cat and snake battles. Unless there was a difference in size, a snake would never be a match for a cat. Therefore, when he heard Medusa say that she wanted to fight 3 alone, Bast was very disdainful. I can kill you with one hand. However, when he really fought with Medusa's 9 snake heads, Bast knew that he was no match for Medusa at all. Whether it was speed, strength, or venom, the attacks of these 9 snakes were not on the same level as those of Medusa 700 years ago. They were all several times stronger. In the past, Bast could fight against 9 snakes at the same time, but now, just 3 of them were enough to make Bast feel powerless. In addition, Batet was already injured by Loki before. In less than a few minutes, Batet let out a scream as his body was bitten by the snake head. If Batet hadn't made a prompt decision to cut off the bitten part of his body and throw it away, Batet would have been poisoned by now. Damn it, be careful. Medusa is already a level Yuan-ko. Bast used his injured body to give his friends such a reminder. Chapter 550. In fact, even without Bastet's words, Ice Eyes and Anubis knew that Medusa was different from the past. They had fought and killed their way to where they were in the past, so they knew each other's moves very well. Medusa's ranking in the Universe-class Yuan-ko catalog was not even as high as the 3 Egyptian gods. In the past, no matter what, the 3 Egyptian gods could catch Medusa and beat her up, not to mention when the 3 of them worked together to fight Medusa. But now, they were being beaten back by Medusa, and they were about to be forced into a corner. Behind them was Gohan, who had just seriously injured Hela, and his sword essence was only in the hundreds. Just now, in order to kill Hela in one fell swoop, Gohan had poured all the sword essence in his body into the Sword of Victory, then used the strongest killer move of the 9 swords of Mysterious Heaven, Sword Dipper Vault, and used the strongest attack he could use in the future to seriously injure Hela in one fell swoop. Otherwise, no matter how much the Sword of Victory restrained Hela, it would not have made Hela fall into the rhythm of certain death in an instant. But now, the sword essence in Gohan's body was completely used up, and the direct consequence of this was that Gohan's physical strength also fell into an extremely low state. Now, Gohan could not even lift a pair of chopsticks, let alone fight. It would take a lot of effort. Miss Medusa, we meet again. Seeing that the 3 Egyptian gods had been forced in front of him, Gohan smiled bitterly and said to a snakehead in front of him, Gohan, be careful, you will be turned into stone by Medusa. The 3 Egyptian gods said nervously. It's okay, I'll talk to Miss Medusa. Gohan smiled slightly and said to the snakehead, Miss Medusa, you won't mind me talking to this mortal, right? Don't tell me you're afraid of me? Oh, you do have some guts. One of the snakeheads spat out its serpent instincts and began to speak in the human language. The other 8 giant snakes were still vigilantly watching Batet and the other 2. You said you know me, but why don't I remember meeting you before? Miss Medusa, have you forgotten? When Miss escaped from the Mei Ling mountain range, I was in the mine. Later, I spoke with Miss Medusa and accidentally angered Miss Medusa. She turned me into a piece of stone. Miss, do you remember? Gohan smiled and told her about his encounter in the Mei Ling mountain range. I remember now. You are the human who dared to insult me. You're still alive. I really underestimated you back then. I didn't expect you to be able to injure Gila a month later. Although you borrowed the power of the victory sword, your strength is no weaker than a spirit sword-level sword wielder. If only I had been more ruthless back then, Medusa said with a hiss. But isn't this brat still in your hands, Miss Medusa? Gohan smiled bitterly. I didn't expect Miss Medusa to become an Ian-level Yuan Ko. I have to congratulate Miss Medusa here. Ah, this is all thanks to those bugs in Yuzhong City. If not for them forcing me underground to recuperate, how could I have obtained that Emperor Zurg and used its power to break through to the Ian-level Yuan Ko? Medusa's face was full of a proud smile. You didn't expect this, did you? The Emperor Zurg that you are so proud of is also the key for us gods to increase our strength. From today onwards we will no longer be fixed at this realm that has not changed for 1,000 years, ha ha ha. Medusa laughed arrogantly, but she did not realize that she had leaked an extremely important piece of information. So the Emperor Zurg can increase our strength by 1 level. Loki, who was standing next to the Emperor Zurg, clenched his fists tightly. This was the first time he had heard of this. He had never thought that the Emperor Zurg that only humans could use could also increase Yuan Ko's impenetrable and unbreakable realm. This was definitely an unexpected discovery. One could imagine how big of an uproar it would cause in the Yuan Ko once this news spread. Even Bast and the other two in front of Gohan were looking around with greed in their eyes. They were wondering if they should snatch an Emperor Zurg back and increase their strength to the Ian-level Yuan Ko, just like Medusa. If all the Yuan Ko knew about this, the 8 bases would probably be besieged by waves of Ian-level Yuan Ko's armies just to snatch the Emperor Zurg dimensional crystal in the dimensional barrier. Medusa realized that she had leaked the information when she saw Bast and the others' expressions. An angry expression appeared on her face. What are you so happy about? Do you think that the Emperor Zurg will help you increase your realm? Without the secret technique that I have been researching for hundreds of years, you can forget about increasing your realm even if you hug the Emperor Zurg to sleep every day. Oh, if that's the case, may I ask Miss Medusa, where is your Emperor Zurg? Can you protect it with your body? Gohan asked again. At this time, Loki suddenly felt that something was wrong when he heard Gohan's question. Was Gohan trying to provoke the idiot Medusa? Medusa did not speak. Gohan continued, actually, it's not hard to guess. Miss Medusa must have lent the Emperor Zurg to Loki. Otherwise, Loki wouldn't have thought of using Miss Misaka Mikoto to come up with this vicious plan to kill more than half of the sword-bearers in Yuzhong City. Then let me make a bold guess. The reason why Miss Medusa is willing to lend the Imperial Zurg to Loki is because she wants to borrow the creation deity's divinity in Loki's hands. She wants to use the power of the creation deity's divinity to destroy Poseidon and avenge you, right? You must have heard Loki's divine wish and guessed it. Medusa's snake head nodded and said without hiding anything, that's right. After Yuzhong City is destroyed, Loki will give me the creation deity's power so that I can use it to kill Poseidon. Miss Medusa, believe it or not, I still have to tell you that you won't have the chance to use the creation deity's power in this lifetime. Gohan had a mocking expression on his face. What do you mean? Medusa's snake face froze. Loki, who was next to her, immediately said, Medusa, don't listen to this human's provocation. He wants us to kill each other so that he can save his Yuzhong City. Master Loki, whether I'm trying to provoke you or not, it's not too late to discuss it after I'm done talking. Why are you in such a hurry to stop me from talking? What do you mean by that? Gohan said sinisterly. Medusa immediately patted Loki's shoulder. Don't be impatient. There's no harm in listening to what this kid has to say. Miss Medusa is wise. If my information is correct, Loki has used the creation deity's power twice so far. Am I right? Guhan told her the information he had obtained from the eagle cat sword spirit. How did this kid know? Loki's mind was in a mess. He had used the Emperor Zerg twice. How did this kid know? That's right. Loki used it twice. The first time was to threaten Misaka Mikoto, and the second time was to kill that old man Zhu Wudao. I saw both of them, Medusa said. That's good. Logically speaking, after entering the core area of Yuzhong City, he only needs to use the creation deity's power one more time and Yuzhong City will be destroyed in an instant. Wouldn't it be easier to take away the Emperor Zerg from the dimensional wall then? However, Master Loki is in such a hurry to take away the Emperor Zerg. Therefore, I think that an Emperor Zerg can only support the use of the creation deity's power twice. Am I right, Master Loki? Loki and Medusa did not say anything. It was obvious that they had agreed to this point. That's good. If the Emperor Zerg in the dimensional wall is really in Master Loki's hands, he will definitely use it once to destroy Yuzhong City. Then, this Emperor Zerg can only be used one more time. Guhan smiled even more happily. Miss Medusa, do you really think that Loki is willing to use it on Poseidon? Human, don't try to sow discord between us. Since your damn Yuzhong City has been destroyed, of course I will use the last chance to deal with Poseidon. What's there to doubt? Loki said hurriedly. That's not necessarily true. Loki, although we humans are mortal enemies with your Yuan Ko, it's normal for your Yuan Ko to invade our human base city. However, since the decline of the Norse gods, when have you ever participated in any major invasion? Why are you so adamant about Yuzhong City this time? Do you have to gather all the forces you can to destroy Yuzhong City? Do you think I can't guess what you're thinking? Loki, your goal is the Emperor Zerg in Yuzhong City. You want to use the power of the Emperor Zerg to destroy the Christian gods who were behind the destruction of the Norse gods. You want them to have a taste of your pain. Am I right? Guhan's voice was as loud as a bell, causing Rocky to be unable to say a word. Originally, after you obtained the creation godhood, you planned to forcefully attack Yuzhong City while it was still short of manpower to seize the Imperial Zergs here. But at this time, Miss Medusa came to your door with a new Imperial Zerg. So, you made an agreement with Medusa. One would help you destroy Yuzhong City, and the other would help her destroy Poseidon. It was the best of both worlds. However, you probably guessed that the Emperor Zerg could only be used a limited number of times. To be safe, you decided to seize the Emperor Zerg in Yuzhong City. However, you never expected that the sword element in the Emperor Zerg would only be enough to trigger the creation deity's power twice. When Baiju Jendi died with you, you realized that the Emperor Zerg in Yuzhong City, which was originally just a form of insurance, had become the Emperor Zerg that you had to obtain. That was why you came here as soon as you entered the core area. For the sake of the Emperor Zerg, you didn't even bother commanding the Yuan Ko. Other than the arrangements you made when you first entered the core area, you didn't care about them at all. Therefore, most of the Yuan Ko stayed in the Sword-Bearers Service Center. Therefore, the Yuan Ko that left the Sword-Bearers Service Center became a pile of loose sand. They were easily destroyed by the less than 2,000 sword-bearers I led. Chapter 551. Here's the problem. Even if Loki obtains this new Imperial Zerg, he can only use it twice. However, he has three things that he needs to use this Imperial Zerg for. The first is to destroy Yuzhong City, the second is to help you kill Poseidon, and the third is to help him destroy the Christian system. TSK, it seems like he has to give up one thing. Miss Medusa, what do you think Loki will give up? As soon as Guhan finished speaking, Medusa's snakeheads turned to look at Loki. Loki's face turned green. He had been forced to this extent by Guhan. Lord Loki, don't deny that you want to destroy the Christian system. Our Miss Medusa is not that stupid. Guhan added with a smile. That's right, I do want to destroy the Christian system. Medusa, have you forgotten how the Christian system hunted you back then? Loki could only grit his teeth and admit helplessly. I don't care which Christian system you want to destroy. Even if you destroy the entire Greek system, it's none of my business. You just have to answer me. What do you plan to do with this creation divinity? Medusa stared at Loki and asked fiercely. I'll give up on destroying Yuzhong City. Don't worry. Loki was about to fall into a state of madness. I'll let Yuzhong City go this time. Medusa, if you kill this human now, I won't destroy Yuzhong City. I'll use the remaining 2 chances to destroy Poseidon and Christ. Very good. Medusa slightly smiled and looked at Guhan as she said, Thank you for helping me analyze so many things. Now you can go and die. I promise I'll give you a quick death. With that, Medusa's 9 snakeheads were about to launch a new round of attacks to completely destroy Badet and the other 2. Miss Medusa, the Christian system is second only to the Eastern Celestial Court's Yuan Ko force in this world. Although the creation divinity is extremely powerful and can even kill a desolate level Yuan Ko in one go, it's far from enough to completely destroy the Christian system. But if you want to completely destroy the Christian system, using the Godhead of creation once is far from enough. At the very least, you need to use it twice to cover the whole area of heaven. Please reconsider. Seeing that he was about to be killed by Medusa, Gohan once again displayed his glib tongue and successfully made Medusa hesitate again. Medusa, why don't you believe me? I only need to kill Jehovah. I don't need to destroy the entire heaven. Just once is enough. Loki yelled at the top of his lungs. He was so angry that he was about to vomit blood. That's not necessarily true. Please forgive me for being blunt. From the beginning to the end, this Mr. Loki didn't want to give you the creation divine spark at all. Gohan's voice suddenly exploded. Madam Medusa, if you let Loki leave this place, with Loki's cunning character, you may never find him in your lifetime. He will disappear without a trace with the Imperial Zerg. Impossible. I've already made a divine wish. I will definitely give the Imperial Zerg to you, Medusa. Even if I'm a little cunning, don't you even believe in the divine wish that I made? Even if it's a desolate level Yuan Ko, it will not be worth it in the face of the backlash from the divine wish. Loki quickly said. That's right. Loki made a divine wish. He will not violate it. Medusa's snake eyes flickered as she looked at Gohan fiercely. She was about to turn Gohan into stone in the next second. Ah, all right then. I wonder if Madam Loki dares to repeat the divine wish that you just made? Gohan said with a long laugh. Hearing Gohan's request, Loki was instantly stumped. However, facing Medusa's vigilant gaze, Loki had no choice but to repeat the divine wish that he made. The current king of the Norse pantheon, Loki, swears on his divine spark that as long as Medusa helps me defeat these humans, obtain the Imperial Zerg, and destroy Yuzhong City, I will give the creation divine spark to Medusa for safekeeping until Medusa kills Poseidon. That's right. After destroying Yuzhong City, you will hand over the creation divine spark to me. Is there any problem with this divine wish? Medusa checked the divine wish again and found that there was indeed no problem. Sigh, a snake's brain is really not that good. Miss Medusa, don't tell me you've forgotten that Loki has just assured you that he will give up on destroying Yuzhong City. Since Yuzhong City will not be destroyed, then the divine spark of creation will naturally be in Loki's hands. This divine wish is simply a divine wish that cannot be fulfilled. Gohan sneered. What? Only then did Medusa react. 3 of the 9 snake heads turned around and stared at Loki. Loki, what do you mean by this? Are you playing me like a monkey? Are you crazy? Not destroying Yuzhong City was decided after I made the divine wish. When I made the vow, how could I know that I would give up on destroying Yuzhong City now? Loki also defended himself angrily. Seeing Loki's frantic face, Medusa started to believe Loki a little. No. Miss Medusa, Loki never thought of destroying Yuzhang City from the beginning to the end. His only thought was to completely destroy heaven. Guhan immediately said, "Don't forget our debate just now. There are only 2 chances left to use the creation divine spark. If Yuzhang City is destroyed according to Loki's divine wish, Loki will only have 1 chance left. Whether he will destroy heaven or help Poseidon, don't you know? In the original world, Loki had even destroyed his own Norse pantheon for the sake of revenge. Believe me, Loki had already thought of this word game when he made the vow. At that time, he had already given up on destroying Yuzhang City. As long as he got the Imperial Seed, he would immediately disappear without a trace. That way, he wouldn't have to worry about the backlash of the divine wish, and he would have 2 chances to use the creation divine spark. How could Loki give up on such a good thing? From the beginning to the end, he has been playing you like a monkey. By the way, I have another piece of evidence to prove that Loki has already decided to give up on destroying Yuzhang City. Just when Loki made the divine wish, my master, sword immortal cloudy sky, and the majority of Yuzhang City's troops had already broken out of Yang Fortress with the help of Hao Tianjiandi. They are rushing back to Yuzhang City at full speed. Didn't Loki ask Zeus and Jehovah to restrain Hao Tianjiandi and Long Jiandi from afar? Since Hao Tianjiandi can act freely now, Zeus and Jehovah must have given up on restraining them because they received news from Loki that Loki has given up on destroying Yuzhang City. Guhan's words were like a sharp knife. The fragile alliance between Medusa and Loki was about to be cut off by Guhan. Nonsense. Medusa, this human is a swordsman. He is trying to sow discord among us to protect his Yuzhang City. Don't believe what he says. Loki said hurriedly. TSK, Lord Loki, can't you even produce a little bit of evidence? Is that all you have left to say? Guhan laughed. Medusa, I, Guhan, am a citizen of Yuzhang City in life and a ghost of Yuzhang City in death. Since Yuzhang City will not be destroyed, I have nothing to feel sorry for. I just don't want to see Loki, the instigator, get away with killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Miss Medusa, if you really can't tell whether it's true or not, then let's do it this way. Let go of Bast and the rest and let them kill Loki. That way, you won't be the one to kill Loki with your own hands, and you won't be violating the divine will between the 2 of you. You can kill him with a borrowed knife. Anyway, Bast and the rest can't beat you. After they kill Loki, the Imperial Zerg and the creation divinity will belong to you alone. That way, you will have 2 chances to kill Poseidon. I heard that as long as you react in time, even a Yun-level Yuan Ko can escape the attack range of the creation divinity. You only have 2 chances to kill Poseidon. After this is done, you just need to promise to let us live and promise not to destroy Yuzhang City. Then, I can ask Master and Hao Tianjiandi to open the dimensional barrier and let you leave Yuzhang City. Anyway, your goal is to kill Poseidon. This is something that humans would love to see. I believe that Master and the rest will not stop you from taking revenge. Alright, Guhan's words were the final blow to the alliance between Loki and Medusa. Medusa was finally convinced by Guhan. The remaining 6 snake heads that were staring at Bast and the rest completely left. These giant snakes turned back into Medusa's hair. She sneered and stood in the corner. You guys can continue. Just pretend that I don't exist. This sentence completely declared Medusa's position. Medusa, you will regret this, you will definitely regret this. Loki shouted crazily. However, Medusa had already decided to sit on the mountain and reap the spoils later. She pretended that she did not hear Loki's voice. At the same time, without Hela's obstruction, Bast and the rest approached Loki and surrounded him from 3 directions. Humph. Bast, do you think that you've won? Don't forget, I still have 1 more person here. Finally, Loki remembered Misaka Mikoto, who had not appeared for a long time. Previously, no matter what happened, Misaka Mikoto had calmly melted the imperial alloy. However, if one were to look closely, they would realize that during the 20 minutes of battle and verbal sparring, Misaka Mikoto did not melt much of the imperial alloy. The Yuzhong City imperial zergs were still safely lying in the middle of the imperial alloy. Misaka Mikoto, the lives of your friends are still in my hands. With just a thought from me, the bottle that was suppressing your friends will immediately turn them into a pool of blood. Your friends will only survive if I survive. Misaka Mikoto's body trembled. She turned around and happened to see Gohan's bright eyes. She could feel a calming power from them, as if he was telling Misaka Mikoto that it was enough to listen to him. If any harm comes to my friends, I will completely destroy the remnants of your Norse pantheon. Misaka Mikoto said calmly. Then, she took out a coin from her pocket and placed it between her fingers, facing Bast who was in front of her. Speaking of which, Gohan had kept Misaka Mikoto as a chess piece for a long time. When was Gohan planning to use this chess piece? Chapter 552. F***CK, I'm already injured and you're still trying to kill me. Bast let out a strange cry as his body flashed and appeared next to Misaka Mikoto. A pair of sharp cat claws were placed on Misaka Mikoto's neck. Die! At the same time, Ice Eyes and Anubis had also rushed to Loki's side. Loki quickly covered himself with a water curtain skyflower and once again activated his spell machine cannon form. Super Magnetic Storm. Seeing Bast appear next to her, Misaka Mikoto hurriedly stretched out her hand and pressed it on Bast's body. Immediately after, a violent electromagnetic storm was formed. Perhaps Misaka Mikoto had unleashed her full potential in a panic. The power of the electromagnetic storm was quite shocking. Even Loki, Ice Eyes, and Anubis who were fighting had to take defensive measures to resist the sudden storm. Gohan, who was lying on the ground, was thrown to the roof by the electromagnetic storm and fell heavily to the ground. No one knew if his bones were broken or not. As for Misaka Mikoto and Bast, who were in the center of the electromagnetic storm, both of them were sent flying and crashed into the wall. Bast, who fell to the ground, spat out a dozen mouthfuls of blood. The next moment, his body turned back into a cat. This was a characteristic that would only appear when Bast's divine power was exhausted and his godhead was injured. Unless Bast decided to fight with his life on the line, he would not be able to continue fighting. Misaka Mikoto was not much better off. Although the electromagnetic storm could not hurt her, Bast's cat claws had left 3 wounds on Misaka Mikoto's neck. It was unknown if Bast had injured her arteries as blood gushed out like a fountain. Misaka Mikoto had even fainted. Superpowers aside, Misaka Mikoto was just an ordinary human. Her physical fitness was not even comparable to Gohan. It was normal for her to be destroyed by the electromagnetic storm. Damn it, this mutant human is really useless. Loki cursed when he saw that Misaka Mikoto had lost her ability to fight. At the very least, Misaka Mikoto had helped him eliminate one of his opponents. He did not have to face a 1 versus 3 situation. Now, all he had to do was to fight against 2 opponents, even though the odds of winning against 2 opponents were slim. This time, nothing unexpected happened. Loki was surrounded by Ice Eyes and Anubis. None of his defensive spells were very useful. Soon, Loki's body was covered in blood. There were countless wounds on his body. He was about to die at the hands of Ice Eyes and Anubis. Human, you win this time. I don't want to play with you anymore. Loki's figure blurred and disappeared. Not good, we have to seal the void quickly, Loki is escaping. Ice Eyes said to Anubis. The 2 of them prepared to enter the void and chase after Loki. Don't worry. Haven't you noticed? The surrounding void has long been sealed. Gohan sneered. Ice Eyes and Anubis looked at each other. Their divine senses spread far away in the void. Soon, they found a barrier not far away that prevented anyone from leaving the vicinity through the barrier. Of course, as long as they spent some time, they could break the barrier at this location. However, that was enough time for their pursuers to rush to the location of the broken barrier and drag their opponent out of the void. So, the question was, who sealed the barrier? Isis and Anubis looked at Medusa, who was watching intently. Medusa smiled proudly. Clearly, this barrier was her handiwork. Only by killing Loki could they obtain the creation deity and imperial zergs. Medusa, of course, did not want to see Loki escape. She came here with that in mind. Over there. Suddenly, Medusa pointed at a certain spot. Isis and Anubis understood, and the two of them flashed to the spot Medusa pointed at. Their bodies submerged into the void, and in less than 3 seconds, they brought Loki, who was trying to break through the barrier at that spot and escape from the sealed void, back to the modern world. Loki, who had failed to escape, had completely become a drowning dog. Although he still wanted to resist, Isis and Anubis would never give him another chance. Isis' slender jade disc suddenly turned into a fat bear's paw with brown fur. It hit Loki's leg bone with the force of 1,000 pounds. Loki screamed and his leg bone turned into a pile of broken glass. Anubis couldn't do anything about it either. His scepter kept striking Loki's body. Each strike caused Loki's body to cave in. Soon, Loki's body looked like the surface of the moon, full of bumps and hollows. At this time, Loki had almost lost the ability to resist. It was difficult for him to even release magic. Hurry up and destroy his divinity! Seeing that Loki was about to die, Isis reminded excitedly. Divinity was the root of all God's power, and Loki was naturally no exception. Guhan controlled the divinity of Batet and the other two. He could make Batet and the other two listen to him. The importance of a divinity could be imagined. Once Loki's divinity was destroyed, even if Loki did not die, he would become immortal again. At most, he would be a soul-rank Yuan Ko who knew a little magic and had a slightly stronger body. No, you can't do this to me, Loki said weakly. But what was the use of such powerless words? Soon, Anubis' scepter stabbed into Loki's body, creating hole after hole in Loki's body. Godhood was hidden somewhere in the body of a god. As for where it was up to the god to decide. According to Anubis's poking, it would not be long before Anubis found the location of Loki's hidden divinity. You forced me to do this. I didn't want to do this. Loki, who felt that death was in front of him, muttered to himself. What did he just say? Anubis vaguely heard Loki's words. He could not help but stop the scepter in his hand and began to recall what Loki had just said. At this moment of pause, Loki touched the void and took out a snow-white lotus. The lotus was so pure and beautiful that anyone who saw it could not help but recall the sins they had committed, and then began to repent from the bottom of their hearts. What is this? Anubis was stunned when he saw the lotus, and then he remembered the countless undead that he had sent to hell. This is the creation divinity. Medusa, who was watching the show from the side, suddenly stood up. The 9 snake heads on her head instantly emerged, and the snake mouth rushed towards the lotus, trying to get the creation divinity into her hands. You forced me to do this. You forced me to do this. Loki did not care about Medusa's snake heads rushing towards him. The next moment, a golden light appeared under Loki's crotch, and a small person that looked like Loki's figurine emerged from his crotch. In less than 0.01 seconds, it directly rushed into the white lotus. What is he doing? Isis and Anubis were dumbfounded when they saw Loki's divinity being quickly swallowed by the white lotus. Even Medusa's snake head stopped and stared at the white lotus warily, not daring to approach it for the time being. Ha ha! Do you think that imperial zergs are the only way to use the creation divinity? Loki began to laugh wildly, and there was a hint of coldness in his voice. Other than imperial zergs, the divinity of us universal deities can also activate the power of the creation divinity. In another 15 seconds, the power of the creation divinity will completely explode, and all of you will die here, all of you will die here. This Yuzhong city will also be buried with me, ha 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 ha. Loki laughed even more crazily. Such an unforeseen event caused everyone present to be dumbfounded. The fear of death instantly surged into their hearts. F***ck. The first to react was Medusa. The universe-level Yuan Ko immediately disappeared, frantically running for his life outside the core area. Ice Eyes and Anubis were the next to react, and these two unlucky people also disappeared in an instant. Even Batet, who was pretending to be dead, disappeared without a trace. Only Gohan, Misaka Mikoto, and Loki, who had lost his divinity, were left in the entire underground area. Haha, human, you're really amazing. My good situation has been turned into this by you with just a few words. Loki stared at Gohan with hatred, and a proud and cruel smile appeared on his face. However, your good luck ends here. If you had obeyed me just now and not instigated Medusa, then Yuzhong City could still be preserved. But now, Yuzhong City will be buried together with you, me, and those 4 idiots. Is that so? Gohan stood up, took out his Chinpin sword, and appeared in front of Loki in an instant. He then placed the Chinpin sword on Loki's neck. At that time, there were still 10 seconds before the creation divinity exploded. It's a pity that you can't die in the hands of this creation divinity. I want you to die under the sword of the lowest-level ancient sword mistress. As soon as Gohan's voice fell, a huge head flew into the air. Gohan had personally beheaded Loki. Loki's eyes did not close until he died. The signs of a dimensional vortex began to appear slowly, which meant that Loki was really dead, dead without a doubt. At that time, there were still 7 seconds before the creation divinity exploded. Sister Mikoto, you don't have to pretend anymore. Gohan, who had killed Loki, said with a bitter smile. Misaka Mikoto, who was lying on the ground pretending to be unconscious, also flashed to Gohan's side. Chapter 553. Sister Michin, you could have left with Medusa and the rest. Why didn't you? He asked. There were 6 seconds left before the creation godhead exploded. You're here. Why should I leave? I, Misaka Michin, never leave my friends behind. Little brother. Misaka Michin said proudly. 5 seconds left. So you really think of me as your little brother? Gohan's heart was touched, and he immediately said in disdain, Batet, these idiots. Without me personally bringing the Emperor's sword to help them leave the core region's dimensional barrier, would they have been able to leave the restrictions of the dimensional barrier? Once the creation godhead explodes, the entire Yuzhong city will be destroyed. Everyone in the core area will die. They won't be able to hide. 4 seconds left. All right then. I'm the cause of all this trouble. Today, my friends and I will die with you, little brother. Misaka Mikoto had a calm smile on her face as she spoke. It was obvious that she had made up her mind to die. 3 seconds left. No. They're going to die, but Sister Michin, you don't have to. Gohan waved his hand and placed a dimensional brocade pouch in Misaka Michin's hand. Sister Michin, your friends, over 1,000 sword ladies in Yuzhong City, Chinpin, Etienne, Doyu, and the Victory Sword are all inside. I'll leave this dimensional brocade pouch to you. Please keep it safe for me. Return it to my descendants in Yuzhong City. I, Gohan, will die without regrets. 2 seconds left. What do you mean by that? Misaka Michin was confused. 1 second left. Gohan looked at the dimensional vortex that had expanded to its limit. Although the creation godhead's explosion can destroy the real world and the void, it can't destroy the dimensional vortex. I've looked up confidential information that only the Sword Pavilion Master has access to. After the first creation godhead explosion 1,000 years ago, everything else was destroyed except for the dimensional vortex. That's why I'm half confident that the dimensional vortex can survive the creation godhead's explosion. Sister Machin, go into the dimensional vortex now. Damn it, Gohan talks too much nonsense. -1 second left. After the dimensional vortex, it was connected to the vast and boundless dimensional rift, and the dimensional rift was connected to the dimensional wall and dimensional space. It was completely different from the pseudo-dimensional space that humans named dimensional pocket. The real dimensional space was a space between 2 and 3 dimensions. It was not affected by the power of the three-dimensional world, so it was very likely that the real dimensional space would not be affected by the divine spark of creation. Yuan Ko had come from the second dimension to the third dimension through the dimensional space, so they could naturally survive in the dimensional space. However, it was different for native-born humans. As soon as humans entered the dimensional space, they would immediately die without exception. That was why Misaka Mikoto could hide in the dimensional space, but Gohan could not. "No, I'm not leaving," Misaka Mikoto said firmly when she heard Gohan telling her to hide in the dimensional space. "No, you have to leave. Even if it's not for yourself, you have to leave for your friends and the thousands of sword mistresses in Yuzhong City." Gohan picked Misaka Mikoto up and sent her into the dimensional vortex. TSK, it feels like a second-rate TV series. A -2 seconds left. Dad, Mom. Looks like my wish won't come true. Gohan let out a long sigh. He was waiting for the creation godhead to explode. -5 seconds left. That's not right. Why isn't the creation godhead exploding yet? Gohan panicked when he saw that the moment of his death had yet to arrive. Could it be that I've been tricked by Loki? Gohan, hurry up and help me out. Gohan heard Misaka Mikoto's voice again. I'm sorry, Sister Mikoto. It's better for us to play it safe. Wait for another 10 seconds. If the creation godhead doesn't explode, it won't be too late for you to come out. Gohan stared at the creation godhead and said without turning his head. Wait my A**s. If you don't help me out, I'll be trapped in the dimensional space forever. Misaka Mikoto's voice was about to explode. When Gohan heard that, he quickly turned around. The dimensional vortex was about to close completely, leaving only a hole the size of a watermelon. In the dimensional space, superpowers were useless. Misaka Mikoto could only crawl out like a normal human. However, who could crawl out of a hole the size of a watermelon unless they specialized in jiu-jitsu? Misaka Mikoto would definitely not be able to crawl out. Once the dimensional vortex closed, it would be the end of her. According to research, once the dimensional vortex connected to the dimensional rift closed, the position of the dimensional rift would immediately change. Even if the dimensional vortex was open 0.00001 seconds later, Yuan Ko, who was talking to her through the dimensional vortex just now, would be teleported to an unknown place. Unless a new dimensional vortex or dimensional rift coincidentally opened next to Misaka Mikoto, the chances of her escaping from the dimensional rift were close to 0. That's right, dimensional rifts are different from dimensional rift. Don't get it wrong. What should I do? Misaka Mikoto panicked. At that moment, the dimensional vortex was slowly closing. Perhaps because the one who died was a U-class Yuan Ko, this dimensional vortex existed for a few times longer than an ordinary Yuan Ko's dimensional vortex. An ordinary dimensional vortex would only open and close for 4 to 5 seconds. However, this dimensional vortex created by U-class Yuan Ko had existed for more than 15 seconds. Therefore, there were about 5 seconds left before it would close. If Gohan could not think of a way to pull Misaka Mikoto out of the dimensional vortex within 5 seconds, she might be trapped between the dimensional rifts for the rest of her life. F***ck. Gohan wanted to slap himself for neglecting such an important matter. He was so focused on saving Misaka Mikoto's life that he forgot that the dimensional vortex might close. There must be a way. There must be a way. Gohan, you must calm down. Gohan warned himself. Little brother Gohan, I can't get out. There's no need to think of a way. Thank you. At that moment, the entrance of the dimensional vortex had changed from a watermelon to a volleyball. Even if she had jujitsu, she would not be able to escape from the vortex. Misaka Mikoto had given up on escaping. Little brother Gohan, I'm returning this to you. Misaka Mikoto threw the dimensional brocade pouch into Gohan's hands. Little brother Gohan, I'm very happy to have met you. I'll never forget the adventure we went through together. No. There's a way. There's a way. Misaka Mikoto's words gave Gohan a splitting headache. He wanted to calm down, but he could not help but recall the adventure that Misaka Mikoto had mentioned. He recalled the time when he brought Misaka Mikoto to kill the zombies. There were so many zombies that the dimensional vortex could not close. It was as if everything had just happened. Everything appeared in front of Gohan's eyes. No, wait, there's something in here. Gohan's eyes lit up. He seemed to have thought of something. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared and appeared in front of Hila, who was unconscious and half of her body was burnt. The Godhead. Where is Hila's Godhead? At that time, the dimensional vortex in front of Misaka Mikoto had become the size of a baseball. Gohan's eyes kept searching Hila's body. Is it here? Gohan pulled out his victory sword. First, he poked a hole in the heart. No, Hila's Godhead was not inside. Here? Gohan then cut open Hila's stomach. There was still no Godhead. Could it be here? Gohan directly cut open Hila's skull. No, there was still no Godhead. Goodbye, little brother Gohan. The dimensional vortex had shrunk to the size of a Nanfong tangerine. There was only one last chance for the solid cold sword. Everything seemed to be beyond saving. It can't be here, right? Gohan's last slash landed on Hila's lower body without hesitation, directly cutting open the wound. Then, a golden figurine of Hila appeared within. Without any hesitation, Gohan mustered up the last of his strength and slashed the victory sword on Hila's figurine. The figurine was instantly cut into a golden light. Misaka Mikoto looked at her final ray of light. It was light coming from a hole the size of a needle's eye. She did not know how long it would take before she fell into the endless darkness. She did not know if she would have the chance to see the familiar sunlight again. Misaka Mikoto closed her eyes and waited for the endless darkness to come. However, not long after Misaka Mikoto closed her eyes, she felt the outside of her eyelids brightening up again. Sister Mikoto, are you planning to sleep in the dimensional rift? Gohan's familiar voice entered Misaka Mikoto's ears. Before Misaka Mikoto could open her eyes, she felt two hands hugging her arm. Then, her entire body was pulled out of the dimensional vortex. Ms. Misaka, you can't die. Otherwise, as your master, I'll be very sad. A mocking voice said. Misaka Mikoto opened her eyes and saw Etion hugging her with a mocking expression. It seemed like she was the one who entered the dimensional vortex and pulled her out. All right, I'll give this person to you. I still need to absorb the sword essence. The sword essence of 2 Yun level Yuan Ko can't be wasted. It's a great supplement. Etion proudly stuck out her chest and stuck 2 pieces of her soft flesh into the dimensional vortex. She enjoyed absorbing the sword essence inside. What happened? Why did the dimensional vortex appear again? Misaka Mikoto asked helplessly. Sister Mikoto, did you forget? Yuan Ko came from the same dimensional world. After his death, the dimensional vortex can be connected. Misaka Mikoto saw that Gohan's forehead was full of sweat. I killed Loki's daughter, Hila, so that the father and daughter can meet in another world, Gohan said with a pout. Then, the Norse pantheon is almost dead. Misaka Mikoto felt sad when she heard that Hila was dead. As expected, Siskanon's character had always been that of a saint. So be it. One day, all pantheons will be destroyed by me, Guhan. Guhan said without any hint of modesty. Chapter 554. What an arrogant tone. Then, is this sovereign going to be killed by you too? Medusa's disdainful voice was heard when Guhan said that he would kill all the pantheons in the world. Miss Medusa, didn't you escape? Why did you come back? Aren't you afraid that the creation divinity will explode? Guhan asked with a smile. Humph. Medusa was furious when she thought about this. She escaped very quickly and arrived at the edge of the core area in less than 2 seconds. Only then did she realize that she was blocked by the core area's dimensional barrier. She couldn't leave the core area at all. Although the dimensional barrier in the core area wasn't as tough as the superdimensional barrier that covered the entire Yuzhong city, even a desolate level Yuan Ko would need more than 10 minutes to break through it. How could a Yun level Yuan Ko break through this dimensional barrier in such a short amount of time? As a result, Medusa was angry, afraid, and depressed. She had no choice but to vent her anger on Bast and the other two. After Bast and the other two were beaten half to death, she realized that the power of the creation divinity had yet to explode. Suspicion arose in her heart. She returned to the ground and saw Guhan talking to Misaka Mikoto while holding her little hand. Medusa felt a little sour in her heart. Medusa's 3 snake heads each bit one of the 3 Egyptian gods. Then, she spat the 3 unlucky guys on the ground. The 3 unlucky guys all had their eyes closed. Their faces were purple, and they looked like they were already dead. Medusa, what did you do to them? Guhan's words sounded a little lacking in confidence. Didn't we agree that if we help you kill Loki, you'll let us live? Why are you panicking? I didn't kill the 3 of them. Medusa sneered. I only injected a little venom into their bodies. This bit of venom will only make them sleep for a few days at most. It won't kill them. Moreover, as long as the divinity isn't damaged, they won't die even if the venom is 10 times stronger. All right, I won't break our promise, and I'm not interested in watching the 2 of you flirting here. Now, hand over the creation divinity and the imperial seed to me. I'll let you live. Medusa said fiercely. Misaka Mikoto immediately threw Guhan's hand away when she heard Medusa saying that she was flirting with Guhan. She acted as if she had nothing to do with Guhan. Hurry, give me the creation divinity. Now, immediately, right now. Medusa extended her hand. Without hesitation, Guhan placed the creation divinity that he had picked up on the ground into Medusa's hand. Medusa could feel the vigorous energy contained within the creation divinity as soon as she touched it. She nodded in satisfaction. Suddenly, a snake head rushed out and wrapped itself around Guhan's waist, coiling around Guhan. What are you doing? Put the Guhan down right now. Misaka Mikoto was shocked and immediately scolded him. I'm not doing anything. The dimensional alloy outside the imperial seed hasn't completely melted yet, right? If you melt the rest of the imperial seed now, I'll return your little lover to you. Otherwise, you'll watch him die. Although Medusa was a universe-level Yuan Ko, she did not have a good way to deal with the Emperor alloy. In the end, she could only rely on Misaka Mikoto's strength to achieve her goal, just like Loki. You. Misaka Mikoto took out a coin and pointed it at Medusa. The situation was on the verge of exploding. You're just a universe-level freedom warrior, and you dare to disobey me? Medusa's 9 snake heads laughed maniacally at the same time. Alright, do it. Let's see who will die here first. Or should I say, your little lover dies first? Medusa's snake head began to exert force, wrapping around Guhan until he was almost unable to resist. Take out the Imperial Zergs, Guhan said intermittently. Ah, did you hear that, Misaka Mikoto? Your little lover wants you to hit him. Are you going to disobey? Medusa laughed maniacally. Misaka Mikoto had no choice but to turn her head around and continue melting the remaining imperial alloy. You little human brat, I thought you weren't afraid of death, but in the end, you're just a coward. All 8 of Medusa's snakeheads were monitoring Misaka Mikoto's movements. Only one snakehead was coiling around Gohan, while Medusa was facing Gohan. Who isn't afraid of death? Gohan smiled bitterly. Miss Medusa, can you loosen up a little? Otherwise, I'm going to be stuck to you until I die. You talk too much. Although Medusa sounded unhappy, the snakehead still loosened its grip on Gohan. Miss Medusa, I don't understand. You and Poseidon are both gods of the Greek pantheon. Why did you have to kill Poseidon? Gohan asked as soon as he caught his breath. You're asking for death. As expected, Medusa exploded the moment she heard Gohan's question. Her snakeheads coiled around Gohan tightly and almost crushed Gohan's chest. Medusa, let go of Gohan now, or else you'll never get this Imperial Zergs. Misaka Mikoto had been paying attention to Gohan's condition. Once she saw that Gohan was in danger, she immediately threatened him. Misaka Mikoto's threat worked. Very soon, Gohan could breathe again. Medusa stared at Gohan for a long time. Suddenly, she let out a sigh. Fine, there's no harm in telling you. I've been holding this in for a long time. It's to the point where I can't let it go. Before I came to this world, when the name Medusa was just a mortal's name, my life was so simple and happy. As Medusa spoke, her eyes gradually revealed a look of reminiscence and intoxication. Gohan could even see a rare innocence that only belonged to a young girl in Medusa's eyes. Back then, I was just a normal priestess in the temple of Athena. My family couldn't raise me, so they sent me to the temple of Athena. I grew up there until I was 16 years old. When I was 16, I was so beautiful, so dazzling. I was loved by men and hated by women. Even the other priestesses hated me. If it wasn't for the priestess who took me in, I'm afraid I would have been killed by my beauty. But the young me didn't notice any of this. I even secretly stood under Athena's statue and kept comparing my beauty with Athena's. Then I realized that I was even more beautiful than Athena. I didn't dare to do such a disgraceful thing in the day. So, I could only secretly compare at night. That night, Poseidon was having a feast in Athena's kingdom. I happened to see myself on the other side of the main statue of Athena. At this point, the innocence in Medusa's eyes completely disappeared. It was replaced by deep hatred and anger. That perverted, despicable, cowardly man. How dare he call himself the god of the sea? That night, he secretly came to my side and turned into a handsome and strong warrior. He constantly used beautiful words to please me, used precious gifts to buy me over, and used his strong muscles to seduce me. He even loudly announced to everyone that I was even more beautiful than Athena. I was still young then. Very quickly, I fell head over heels for this guy. I felt that he was a brave man. I spent 7 days with him. Finally, one night, he pulled me into the temple. In front of the statue, he praised me as a woman more beautiful than Athena. I was intoxicated for a moment and let go of my restraint. Finally, Poseidon got what he wanted and entered my body. Medusa's face blushed when she said this. When the pain woke me up, I realized that I had been violated by this man in the temple. This was disgraceful. If Athena found out, I would definitely die. So, I started to fight back crazily. I wanted him to leave my body. I even begged him to wait until he left the temple before I let him enjoy himself. But this sex fiend completely ignored my request. Instead, it was because of my shouting that attracted the attention of Athena from the kingdom of heaven, allowing her to see this ugly scene. Medusa said through gritted teeth. Athena descended. This was the first time I saw Athena's true form. It was also the last time I saw her true form as a human. Athena called out Poseidon's true name. Only then did I know that this guy was not a human. He was the supreme god of the sea, Poseidon. When she said the word supreme, Medusa showed deep mockery and disdain. Then, Athena said that she would let me experience the cruelest torture in the world before killing me to maintain the dignity of her temple. So I begged Poseidon, begging him to save me. I naively thought that Poseidon was the younger brother of Zeus and Athena's uncle. Since Poseidon had my body, he would definitely plead for me. With his identity as her uncle, Athena would definitely let me go. I was too stupid. Poseidon was such a coward. He did not even dare to plead for me. His uncle was actually afraid of his niece. Not only did he not plead for me, he even pushed all the blame on me. He said that I seduced him, and that I claimed to be more beautiful than Athena, which aroused his interest. He even said that he raped me to help Athena punish me and help her vent her anger. After that, Athena turned me into a gorgon. She said that she wanted me to live in the ugliest form in this world. Sob, 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 sob. Medusa started bawling her eyes out. Even her 9 snake heads started writhing around. She had completely given up on keeping an eye on Misaka Mikoto. Even her snake head that was wrapped around Guhan fell to the ground. Guhan fell to the ground and fell into agony. Sigh. It's okay. It's okay. Poseidon should be cut into 1,000 pieces. Guhan let out a long sigh as he comforted Medusa. He then pointed a finger at Misaka Mikoto, indicating that she could make her move. Misaka Mikoto nodded blankly. She raised both of her palms at the same time with a coin between each of her fingers. That was 8 coins in total. Finally, Misaka Mikoto had another coin in her mouth. A total of 9 coins were ready to be fired. This was Misaka Mikoto's ultimate skill after she became an Ion-level Yuan-ko, the Vulcan Super Electromagnetic Blast. It was a power that Misaka Mikoto had never used in this world. Even an Ion-level Yuan-ko would be severely injured if he did not die from the blast. Chapter 555. Do it. Guhan raised a finger, signaling for Misaka Mikoto to attack. However, after waiting for more than 10 seconds, Medusa was still in a crazed state. Misaka Mikoto's Vulcan Super Electromagnetic Gun did not fire. Instead, Misaka Mikoto walked over from the front of the Emperor Alloy and stood beside Medusa. Seeing Misaka Mikoto's pitying expression, Guhan knew that it was over. His own cleverness had made a fool of itself. Misaka Mikoto actually felt pity for Medusa. Misaka Mikoto and Medusa were both at the universe-level Yuan-ko. The moment Medusa returned, Misaka Mikoto would immediately fight Medusa. Based on Medusa's ranking at the bottom of the universe-level Yuan-ko, even if she was at the universe level, she would not be a match for Misaka Mikoto. If the two of them were to fight head-on, Misaka Mikoto's chances of winning would be slightly higher. However, in order to end the battle as quickly as possible, Guhan did not let Misaka Mikoto fight Medusa directly. Instead, he followed Medusa's wishes and let Medusa let her guard down. At the same time, he stirred up the knot in Medusa's heart, causing Medusa to enter a state of mental confusion. If he let Misaka Mikoto attack at that time, the chances of her winning would naturally be much higher. Based on what he saw earlier, Medusa had completely entered a state of insanity. Misaka Mikoto defeating or even killing Medusa was already a done deal. All she had to do was use the Vulcan Super Electromagnetic Gun just now and Medusa would definitely be severely injured. However, Misaka Mikoto had always been a sentimental girl. After hearing Medusa's sorrowful and tragic story, she fell into sympathy for Medusa. It was impossible for Misaka Mikoto to attack such a woman. If she could do it, she would not be the cis-canon that everyone was familiar with. Why are you here? Go and take out the Emperor Alloy for me. Medusa realized that something was amiss the moment Misaka Mikoto came to her side. She regained her composure and threatened Misaka Mikoto with a fierce look on her face. Miss Medusa, since you were once a human, please think about the humans in Yuzhong City. Without this Emperor alloy, they would lose the protection of the dimension barrier. Wouldn't they have to face the threat of Yuan-Ko day and night? Only death awaits them. Misaka Mikoto said sincerely. What does a human have to do with me? Medusa had a look of disdain on her face, as all 8 of her snakeheads glared at Misaka Mikoto. The other snakehead grabbed Guhan, who was standing next to her, and threatened, "You better take out the Imperial Seed now. Otherwise, your little lover will die in my hands." The 9th snakehead missed its target. In the blink of an eye, Guhan appeared behind Misaka Mikoto. The bodies of the 3 Egyptian deities had been kept into Guhan's dimension pocket. As long as Guhan was alive, Medusa would not be able to threaten Guhan's dimension pocket. What a joke! Do you think a mere universe-level elemental puppet like you can stop me? Medusa was furious. She felt like she had been tricked again. 3 of her 9 snakeheads went after Misaka Mikoto, while the other 6 went after Guhan. From this, it could be seen that Medusa was venting her anger on Guhan. She assumed that Guhan was the mastermind behind all the lies. Even though Misaka Mikoto was the biggest threat, she still used 2/3 of her power to deal with Guhan. However, Medusa's guess was not wrong. All the lies were planned by Guhan. There was no one else but him. Initially, Medusa thought that 3 snakeheads would be enough to deal with a universe-level Yuan-Ko. The remaining 6 snakeheads would be more than enough to deal with Guhan. However, Misaka Mikoto tossed her hand into the air. Fine golden powder floated in the air like stars and surrounded Guhan tightly. The stars instantly formed a domain-like area. As soon as Medusa's 6 snakeheads entered the domain, they felt as if they had crashed into a large metal net. No matter how hard Medusa's snakeheads tried to attack or bite, they could not break through the defense of the metal net. What the hell is this? Why can't it stop my invincible power? Medusa panicked. This is the Iron Sand Formation, Misaka Mikoto replied. The Iron Sand Formation was one of Misaka Mikoto's more famous abilities. She also had the Iron Sand Sword that came with the Iron Sand Formation. That's impossible. I've heard of your Iron Sand Formation. Even the meteor-level Yuan-Ko was able to move freely in your Iron Sand Formation. How can it stop my universe-level power? I don't believe it. Medusa roared. The Iron Sand Sword and the Iron Sand Formation were 2 of Misaka Mikoto's more famous abilities. The principle behind them was to use magnetic force to move the iron sand or fine metal sand according to her will. It would form a sword that looked like a black whip or a long saber, as well as a domain shield that could protect one's surroundings. The iron sand was like a net that could trap an opponent who was trying to enter the domain. It could even be like a small steel ball that could pierce the enemy's body and deal a fatal blow to the enemy. The iron sand sword could be controlled by electromagnetic energy. At the same time, it could generate a huge vibration. It was like a high-speed electric chainsaw that could cut objects. Compared to a powerful ultimate skill like the super electromagnetic gun, the Iron Sand Formation and the Iron Sand Sword were the skills that Misaka Mikoto usually used in battle. Therefore, Medusa was no stranger to the Iron Sand Sword and the Iron Sand Formation. She had also heard a lot about Misaka Mikoto's battles. After all, the Iron Sand Formation was made up of ordinary metal sand. It might be effective against the low-level Yuan-Ko. However, against the universe-level Yuan-Ko, the iron sand could not even pierce through his skin. How could it stop his attack? This isn't ordinary iron sand. Misaka Mikoto opened her palm in front of Medusa. There was a small pile of golden metal powder in her palm. This is the alloy powder that I dissolved from the Emperor alloy. My iron sand formation is made up of this powder. If you can break out of my Emperor alloy, you can naturally break through the Emperor alloy on your own. You don't need my help. You. Medusa's 9 heads danced around crazily, showing her crazy state of mind. Miss Medusa, please stop. Misaka Mikoto threw the Emperor alloy sand in her palm to the ground, showing that she was not in the mood to fight. Miss Medusa, what do you think? The Freedom Metropolis will do our best to help you get rid of the filth in your body. That way, you'll have a high chance of becoming a free person like us. You'll be able to free yourself from the pain of the past and become a new person. You'll be a truly free person. Don't be bound by the resentment of the past, okay? Misaka Mikoto persuaded. Yes, that was what a normal female protagonist would say. Free person. Will the free person avenge me? That's right, if your mayor makes a move, Poseidon will definitely die. I promise you, as long as you free people avenge me, I'll join the Freedom Metropolis. Is that okay? Medusa's snake heads were motionless as they stared into Misaka Mikoto's eyes, waiting for her to give her the answer she wanted. Misaka Mikoto felt goosebumps when she was stared at by 10 pairs of eyes at the same time. However, in order to save Medusa from her resentment, Misaka Mikoto could only look into Medusa's eyes, hoping that she could see her sincerity in her eyes. I'm afraid that's not possible. We free people, Yuan-ko, and the humans have an agreement not to get involved in your fight. We can only be free if we're freed from these fights. Then there's nothing to discuss. I don't believe that your iron sand formation can block my petrification rays. Medusa roared. 20 rays that were as red as blood shot out from all 10 of her eyes at the same time. That was Medusa's famous petrification rays. Any enemy that was hit by the rays would immediately be petrified, including universe-level Yuan-ko. If Misaka Mikoto was hit by a few of the 20 rays, she would be petrified for at least 10 seconds. Those 10 seconds would be enough for Medusa to regain control of Gohan and threaten Misaka Mikoto to continue extracting Imperial seeds for her in the future. Iron Sand Mirror. Misaka Mikoto knew that her persuasion had failed. She pressed one of her hands on the wall next to her, and a huge metal wall immediately grew out of the metal wall. The surface of the wall was as smooth as a mirror, and one could clearly count the number of nose hairs in their nostrils. It was a brand new skill that Misaka Mikoto had never used before. Junior high school students knew that when light shone on a mirror, the mirror would flip. Medusa's petrification ray naturally did the same when it hit the mirror. The 20 rays were reflected back to Medusa's side and all hit Medusa's body. Of course, the petrification ray had no effect on Medusa, but it was enough to humiliate Medusa. Instant metal mirror. This isn't the power of a universe level. Medusa screamed. Misaka Mikoto, are you also? Yes, I'm also a universe-level free person. Misaka Mikoto begged sincerely. Miss Medusa, let's stop fighting. This is all metal. You can't beat me. Misaka Mikoto's words came from the bottom of her heart, but she did not expect it to anger Medusa even more. Fine, fine, fine. This is your home ground. I can't beat you. Misaka Mikoto, do you dare to fight me outside? Medusa flew out of the underground space as soon as she finished speaking. This place was all metal. Only an idiot would fight Misaka Mikoto here. If you can still beat me outside, I'll leave this place. Medusa's voice came from afar. What else could Misaka Mikoto do? Naturally, she flew out of the underground space and gave up on the battlefield that had a great advantage. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.